Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We will now begin our meeting with the pledge. We will now begin with comments from our superintendent.
Good evening. Yesterday, the citizens of Wake County showed strong support for our public school system by providing county commissioners with overwhelming approval to sell another round of school construction bonds. I want to personally let voters know that I am grateful for their continued investment in Wake County students and teachers. Bond financing is the most cost-effective way to help pay for the next phase of a rolling 7-year construction plan. The bonds approved last night will help build 7 new schools, renovate 11 others, make essential school repairs, purchase land for future school sites, and enhance classroom technology and school security. In our strategic plan, core belief number 6 states that the Wake County residents value a strong public school system and will partner to provide the support and resources to fully realize our shared vision, accomplish the mission, and sustain our core beliefs. That belief was affirmed last night as we continue our efforts to remain the best choice and first choice for Wake County families. Now that the Wake County citizens have shown their support, it's also time for us to be generous in return. Today, I announced the official kickoff of the WCPSS 2018 United Way campaign. During the past 3 years, our staff has raised more than $300,000 for United Way of the Greater Triangle. These funds increased access to quality child care, affordable housing, healthy food. They have improved the overall well-being of vulnerable families right here in the Triangle. I've asked our staff to help us continue the tradition of support for this organization as it works to eradicate poverty and improve social mobility. When we help children and their families reach their full potential, we not only improve their circumstances, but we also strengthen the fabric of our community. Staff members can find more information and a donation link in the email they got from me today. Finally tonight, congratulations to 3 of our outstanding teachers who were recently recognized for going above and beyond to serve students. Hannah Powell, a 6th grade math teacher at Daniels Magnet Middle School, was named the Open Up Resources Middle School National Math Teacher of the Month for October. We partnered with the nonprofit Open Up Resources last year to help deliver new math curriculum which facilitates discussion, debate, and a deeper conceptual learning of mathematics. Hannah has supported other teachers locally and even across the country as part of an Open Up Resources professional learning team. Congratulations also to Krista Brinchek, a science teacher at Abbott's Creek Elementary School. She was honored twice by the North Carolina Science Teacher Association as both the Outstanding Science Teacher for our district and the Best Earth Science Educator in the state. Krista goes the extra mile to encourage students to use the world as their classroom, including her Backpack Explorer program that provides each child with identification charts, binoculars, and other tools to help them safely capture and observe creatures. Students then use their private blog site where they can record their findings and improve their writing skills. And congratulations to Jessica Hook of A.B. Combs Magnet Elementary, who was recently selected as the North Carolina Elementary Physical Education Teacher of the Year by the NCAA HPERD-SM, which is the North Carolina Alliance for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, Dance, and Sports Management. The organization held their annual conference last week and recognized Jessica then. Core belief number 3 of our strategic plan states that well-supported, highly effective, and dedicated principals, teachers, and staff are essential to success for all students. Thank you, Hannah, Krista, and Jessica, for showing others what that belief looks like in practice. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. I will be very brief this evening. I want to echo my thanks to our community for supporting, overwhelmingly supporting the bond, and for all those of you who participated in sharing your voice through your vote, whether it was yesterday or through early voting. We thank you for all of your support, and I personally thank those people in District 2 for their support and all of the people who work tirelessly on behalf of ensuring that we pass a bond and have a school board who are committed to the best outcomes for all of our students and our educators and administrators. And so thank you for everyone who's participated, and I look forward to the next 2 years working with all of you. Dr. Morton.
Thank you. I, too, would like to thank all the voters of Wake County for the support for the bonds and also for those of us that were reelected and elected. The last couple of weeks have been quite busy with the election time period. But I have to tell one story that I learned from a gentleman throughout this campaign process. He's a retired bus driver. And he just really reinforced the value that the bus drivers and a lot of the folks that, they're not in the classroom every day, but they have an amazing impact on education. This gentleman came up to me afterward and told the story of this one little fella got on the bus without his book bag. And the bus driver said, "Where's your book bag? You can't learn if you don't have your book bag." So the bus driver actually sent the child back to his house to get his book bag, waited for him, and then basically kept on this young child and insisted that he show the child show the bus driver his report card every year. And that if he graduated with, and I don't remember exactly what the level was, but if he graduated at a certain level, this bus driver would write a check to this student to support him going on for college. Well, it turned out that this bus driver ended up making it a habit for all the kids on his bus, where they had to show him their report card. And all of a sudden, this bus, which apparently was not a popular bus route for bus drivers, the bus driver just asked the principal one day, several months into this process, how were the kids on this bus doing? And to his delight, of course, the children on this bus that had been a problem bus ended up doing fantastic. And so I asked him permission to share the story, and he said absolutely yes. But this is just a testament to how these people who are the first to meet our students every morning and the last to see them in the evening also have an impact of transforming lives, because what starts here with all of us changes everything. So I had to share that story. Thank you.
Thanks. Just without being redundant, just again, thank the community for their support of the school bond. And also just since our last meeting, had the opportunity to attend the North Carolina School Boards Association's fall law conference. And so when I was there, I had the opportunity to actually send Jonathan and some of the staff a lot of the information that we got there. So it was a great conference over the couple of days in Asheville. We got a lot of good information there to share with board and staff. A lot of the focus was on law with a specific attention around school safety and violence. So it was a well-attended conference, and I had a great time and learned a lot. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Good evening. And I wanted to echo the thanks to the community for the support of our construction bonds the first 2 years of a 7-year plan that we have to, given the growth in Wake County, that we have 70 folks added to our population every day. And also thanks to all who voted yesterday for public school candidates, those who support public education. Also wanted to thank Carroll Middle School. They hosted their parents and their community the Leadership Expo, and the students had their brilliance on display. It was wonderful to be in a school where the students were leading and showing the parents what they were learning every day, and teachers were showing off what how their students were being engaged. So just wanted to link that to the opening of our magnet season. The magnet the magnet school open house was on Saturday, our big magnet fair. So now our magnet schools will be holding open houses, and I want to encourage parents to check out the options that they have through our magnet program.
Yes, I can look at the Wake County School System Facilities Program and compare it to Thomas Jefferson's Monticello. He started building with an idea. The initial construction took longer and cost more than planned. Mr. Jefferson continued with additions, demolitions, and renovations. Along the way, he added many first-of-a-kind features. We know where the dumbwaiter is one. I think some would say that Mr. Jefferson may have never, ever finished Monticello. I think this description can also be applied to the Wake County Public School System's facilities program. With that said, let's also remember, President Thomas Jefferson was bankrupt. So what does that have to do with student assignment? It's quite simple. All of you folks need school seating close to where you live. What has the last 25 years given you? Vastly more capital dollars spent within the Raleigh city limits, adding seating capacity that will require long-distance busing to occupy, then placing programs and funding at these sites to encourage, or can I say bribe, all you folks into agreeing to commit your children's primary school career to long-distance transportation, whether personal or system provided. For your commitment, you will be promised this within the Raleigh school pathway for your children, committing an ever-growing number of hours of their waking day spent in school transportation. This is a very simple problem that was identified 100 years ago. You place appropriately sized schools close to the students with the goal of minimizing transportation. This is supposed to be an educational organization, not the largest busing company in the state or the largest construction program in the state. If the building program had stayed on course to have all students in permanent seats within 10 years, as was the goal in the early 1990s, this program could be self-funded each year just on the financing cost of the current failed building program. Failed, you say? Many will point out the large, fully featured, all-encompassing facilities. But I say a building program with no vision of ever having a permanent seat for every student is a failure. But what I see is if you keep doing what you've been doing, you'll keep getting what you've been getting. So be prepared for more of the same for the rest of your children's school career. But that's okay. You'll be gone and forgotten, and another family or two or maybe three will take your place here, enduring the same pain, or I guess you can just give in to the edict that it's better for your children to attend school in Raleigh. Thank you.
Okay. We had our BAC meeting talking about construction, new construction coming in Western Wake, and renovations that are needed in different buildings, including a 60-year-old building that is in my district. And I want to extend my thanks to Dana Martinez from Friends of Wake and Tim Simmons with our communications department for sharing that information with our BAC members. Ms. Johnson-Hostler, Mr. Fletcher, and myself got to see a Lego competition at Ballantyne Elementary School, which every student, I believe, participated in. I'm not exactly sure how these things were able to happen, but these kids competed in the most amazing way, seeing different tasks performed using their skills and teamwork building, and it really was a great example of our 4 Cs. And I'd like to thank Ms. Sonia Clark and Principal Kim Short for inviting us to that, because it was something I was very, very happy to go see, and I'm not sure who won the competition. I wasn't able to stay, but some of the names were pretty great of the teams. And one of the things that was near and dear to my heart, I wasn't able to go, but Fuquay-Varina High School, Apex Friendship High School, and Holly Springs High School had a Tri-High choral performance. And as a former choral member, it really spoke to me. And the snippets that I saw on Twitter were really great. And just to be able to see those three choruses come together, and I believe they were performing some work from Handel. It brought back memories and just the collaboration that you can see between our different comprehensive high schools. So maybe next year I'll be able to make it.
I also want to echo the support, the thank you for the support that the community has given for our bond issue, and it will be handled well and hopefully do good things for the community, and also for the support that our elected officials received. I think the fact that we had 18 days of early voting and we had to be out there, it did give me a great opportunity to talk to lots of people, and the number of teachers that came through early voting was great, and I learned so much that way. So it was a great experience in that way. The BAC committee met in District 3. Ms. Moore came and gave a great presentation about the school system and how we go about planning, and talked about the bond issue. But I think my BAC committee walked away with just a really good understanding and in awe of how much planning goes into Wake County for all the different things that we try to do for the community. So that was a good night. That's it.
I have to echo the comments from others about appreciation of the community support for our continued meeting the needs of our growing district, and as we can, replacing, building as many schools as we have the capability to build. And we all know, going through the student assignment process, a lot of the angst that we have and the challenges that we have is making decisions where we don't have enough seats. And that's not something that can be solved immediately. We're looking forward to a solution. There are whole lots of things I've been involved in the last 2 weeks, and I'll just share a couple of them. I attended the Magnet Fair Saturday morning down at Southeast Raleigh High School. Some amazing things happening down there, not the least of which is what's happening in the Southeast Raleigh High School program. And it's an extremely attractive program, and the renovations they're doing on the campus is just going to be very nice. Lots and lots of parents and children, and after about 9:30, it's overwhelmed with people. So I appreciate everybody coming down, and I appreciate all the staff that's there celebrating the success they have as their magnet schools and encouraging people to participate. The Cary Band Day, I think it was the 60th annual Cary Band Day. Amazing bands from all over, just from all over. There were, I think, 4 different classes of bands that worked all day. They had different competitions. And Cary doesn't participate, but they do perform, so they don't compete with their guests. Just an amazing event. And there are too many athletic victories to talk about between Green Hope and Panther Creek and all the schools in Western Wake. Needless to say, we have, as a district, we have some great interscholastic athletic programs that our young people are able to participate in, and in participating in those, not only learn to hone their talent in a sport, but also their leadership skills, their collaboration, and cooperation with their peers. So appreciate all the administrators who helped lead that effort, and celebrate the success of the young people in their whatever their program is, whether it's music or the athletics. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We are going to have, I think we are. I just saw our speaker jet up, and hopefully he's coming right back. Oh, there he is. So we're going to have a actual switch in our agenda. I'm going to flip-flop the public hearing with the public comment, because we only have one speaker for public comment and multiple speakers for the public hearing on the enrollment plan. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion with that revision to our agenda.
Motion to approve, move to approve tonight's agenda with said change.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The motion carries. And we have one speaker, Mr. Steve Rao.
Good evening, Superintendent Moore and Madam Chair Johnson Hostler. My name is Steve Rao. I'm a senior member of the City Council in the town of Morrisville. I'm also here today with my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Vicki Scroggins Johnson. First of all, I want to congratulate each of you for your hard-fought election victories, and we continue to be grateful for your service. I did want to wish you a very happy Diwali today. I don't usually dress like this at City Council meetings, but today I'm wearing a Modi vest, which is worn by the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi. And the Diwali basically celebrates the victory of light over darkness, good over evil. Tonight in Morrisville, you'll see houses lit up with lights and fireworks. But what's important to share with this body and the public is that those lights mean much more than just the illumination of a neighborhood, but represent the light and power that exists within each of us to make the world a better place. And I can't think of a better place to share that message than here, the school board that is creating great futures for our children. I'm here today to basically just make 2 points. First of all, we want to congratulate you on the school bond. We are very excited about the opportunities to continue to work with the Wake County School Board to address the need for more collaboration on proximate schools. We have been working with you so much over the last year or the last few years, and we know that there are many citizens frustrated about assignments and schools and school crowding, but we are here to work with you, and I see many citizens today approaching us about this issue, and I just hope that we can continue to have the town of Morrisville and even Cary and Western Wake be considered for as many options as possible to provide schools that are proximate to where our residents live. And I know you don't have an easy job. I want to thank each of you for your hard work. I want to also thank the many, many citizens of Morrisville who have been working with us, coming to town hall meetings, emailing you, calling you, working with the late Kathy Hardestein, and I'm once again so sorry for the loss of that great public servant. We miss her so much. But they have come to Morrisville, and it's just the great example of democracy in action. So on that note, I wish you all a very, very happy Diwali. Let light always prevail over darkness. And let that be a message that we forever give to future generations of our kids who are going to be passing on to lead this great country. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. We will now move to our public comment. Citizens who sign up to address the board during public comment will be called on in priority order, first for items on the agenda and then for items not on the agenda. Each individual speaker will be allowed 3 minutes for remarks. Specific personnel or student matters are not appropriate for this public comment setting, but may be addressed through applicable WCPSS personnel, the grievance policy, or other applicable policies. The first 3 people, Mark Dixon, Chase Brady, then followed by Tatia Markland.
Good evening. I wanted to share some comments that I have regarding the student assignment for the next school year. Today, I do not represent the school my children attend or the PTA I lead there, nor the neighborhood that I live in. Today, it's just me, a parent. I've watched all of your work sessions and a lot of the public comments, and I applaud you for being transparent with your process and appreciate the access you gave so I could see the discussion on this very important topic. I have found it fascinating to watch over the last several months and do not envy your positions. I can't comprehend the number of messages you've received, the conversations you've had, and the long hours you've spent in consideration for our students. Most of all, thank you for providing the various methods for public comment, including this forum. In serving so many students and their families, I understand that not all parents can have their preferences satisfied. I'm one of those parents who will be significantly affected. You gave the opportunity for me to comment, and so I have made my preferences known. I believe that you have listened and considered all of the input to somehow fit this impossible puzzle together. My reaction to what looks to be the final draft is mixed. It favors both of my children with proximity, but one of them will leave their current school. I'm a bit disappointed to leave the school that my children have spent the last 6 years attending. I will leave the relationships that I have made and miss all the ways that I have been an involved parent. So I will describe how I will react to the current draft if it passes your vote. I accept the changes you've made in the draft and will make the best of it. I will continue to be an involved parent next year. I will visit as often as I can because their schools are proximate. I will build new relationships with the teachers and staff and support them however I can. I will make the same demand on them as I have for all of my children's teachers, which is to tell me what they need so I can provide it to them, because I know students consume pencils, glue sticks, dry erase markers, Kleenex, Clorox wipes at an alarming rate. I will gladly meet new parents, enthusiastically embrace a new school community, and encourage the parents to be involved. I will behave this way because I understand that you have had to make difficult choices. I'll take a tangent for a moment to use this forum to call out the fathers who may be listening. I am busy at work, but I make an effort to chaperone a field trip or show up to the school to help my children learn once in a while. I hope they consider doing the same, because parent presence really makes a difference. I was glad to see so many parents provide their input, and you'll get more of the same this evening. I believe that they are all vocal because they care, and I compliment them for taking the time to engage. You probably don't get enough of it, so I thought it important to give you some positive feedback. Your dedication is part of what makes the school system great, and I thank you for caring about my children. Right over there. And now we're going to go do homework. All right.
I'm just going to follow up a little bit on, I got to watch some of the work session, and I would like to follow up on Ms. Mahafey's recommendation that you vote to defer Cameron Pond being reassigned for a year until you can gather some more relevant information. And I'd like to address the two issues that seemed most relevant that I heard in your work session, and those were the caps on Mills Park and meeting the K-3 mandate. Removing us accomplishes neither of these. If you take Cameron Pond out of Mills Park, there still won't be enough students to remove the cap. And we don't have enough students rising in the next few years to help you meet your K-3 mandate. Our population of younger kids is actually declining. And so here's our downward trend in our neighborhood from kindergarten class sizes. Last year, we had 18 kindergartners. This year we have 15. Next year we'll have 10. And the following year, it looks like it'll be around 8. And the number 8 comes from the fact that we only have 32 children in our entire neighborhood that are aged newborn through 4 years old. So kind of just divided that by 4 grades. Again, we only have 32 young children in the entire neighborhood that will be rising up in the next few years. And then we have the 10 incoming kindergartners next year. We also have 51 students that choose other schooling options, private, charter, magnet, and homeschool. So almost a quarter of our school-age kids in Cameron Pond actually choose other educational options than the traditional public schools, and that also accounts for our low numbers going to Mills Park Elementary. And also on a side note, some of those 32 young children that we have, they're siblings of children that choose charter, magnet, private, and homeschooling, so they also, those numbers could be a little lower. We truly offer stability to Mills Park. Our low numbers will remain consistent and predictable. And at the same time, because our numbers are so low, cutting us out is not going to allow you to meet your 2 goals of removing the cap and also meeting the K-3 mandate. So I don't know why move us. It really is lose-lose for everyone here. The real solution is to find an area that would make a true impact and solve your problem holistically. Perhaps 2 or 3 years ago, looking at Cameron Pond, it made sense to move us because our numbers were much higher then, as you can see in our 5th, 6th, 7th graders. But the ages of our neighborhood has declined significantly, and I don't think that was taken into consideration, and obviously an algorithm can't account for what's to come. Also, the thousands of new homes in our area were not factored into your equation 2 years ago. I know I've lived there for many years, and I couldn't imagine the growth that we've seen. Again, voting to remove Cameron Pond from Mills Park as presented in draft 3 will not allow you to remove the cap, and it will not allow you to meet your K-3 numbers. You're still going to have to slice up other neighborhoods. So I would encourage you to table this for a year, look at more options, and come up with a better solution.
So I am a resident of Carpenter Village. My name is Tasha Markland. You guys have heard from me a few times. I wanted to clarify a few of the comments that were made at the last working session. So in Carpenter Village, we anticipated our base middle school moving to Alston Ridge this year, and most of us are okay with that. What we didn't anticipate was that after moving thousands of homes from our neighborhood out of Davis Drive, we would be told that none of our children, unless they are currently enrolled at Davis Drive as 7th graders, would be allowed to attend DDMS again. Essentially, we have been explicitly prohibited from using the extra capacity created at DDMS by our departure to apply for calendar application options, calendar application seats, or even use the same grandfathering rules that apply to all the other middle schools. This is what we object to. I know that creating a new school and populating it inherently creates some instability, but our objection is that you are creating more instability than is necessary, and it's going to impact our children negatively. So these restrictions are deliberate. They are intended to force as many people as possible to attend the new year-round middle school, effectively removing choice for us. And this would be the 4th middle school move for our neighborhood and our neighborhood's history. We've been there for 20 years, and it seems the rationale for that is merely that you are concerned that Alston Ridge won't be populated sufficiently. However, you've also argued that it has to be year-round because the growth in the area is so large that you will be at capacity more quickly than you would like if you make it traditional calendar school. So if you force the school to maximum capacity from its inception, you will have no options to allow for the growth that the assignment staff showed on their heat maps all around the school. You will have nowhere to put those people if you force people from other schools to go there from the beginning. I don't know if I would choose to go to Alston Ridge or Davis Drive, but I want a choice, and that's another common theme for many of our families. If you're a year-round family in West Wake County, you have almost no choice to transfer to a traditional school. There are 20 times more families requesting transfers into our traditional calendar application schools than are transferring out. So what we are asking you is to allow us to keep some measure of stability. With the growth in West Wake County, you don't have to force people into your new school to populate it. So please consider less extreme options. Thank you.
The next three, Julie Ju, Anjai Sonoy, and Anna Sharan.
Dear distinguished board members, thank you for all your time and dedication. Congratulations to Ms. Mahaffey, Ms. Cash, and Dr. Martin for your well-deserved re-elections. We are here today with our final request to please keep us at our neighborhood Mills Park schools, or at the very least, defer making a decision until you have a clear picture of the K-3 audit and holistic solution regarding capping. We want to be very respectful of your time and don't want to be repetitious, so I'll just be discussing two topics. The first topic is Mills Park school capping. My Cameron Pond neighbor already addressed that moving Cameron Pond students out of Mills Park Elementary will not solve the capping issue. An even larger issue is the capping at Mills Park Middle School. If student assignment is looking at resolving the capping issue holistically, they need to look into the thousands of new construction units between Green Level West and 64. These neighborhoods are in Apex and are closer to Salem, Lufkin, and Apex Middle School. The growth in this area is significant, and the future impact needs to be planned for now. It doesn't seem to make sense to move Cameron Pond out of Mills Park Middle School that is so close you can literally see it from our neighborhood, which thank you, Mr. Sutton, Ms. Cash, for coming to our neighborhood. You could experience for yourself, and of course, Ms. Mahaffey. Why are new construction neighborhoods in Apex being bused all the way to Mills Park Middle School in Cary, which is capped, as you well know, when there are more proximate middle schools that are not capped? Adjacent Apex neighborhoods are already zoned for these other middle schools, so that would help with operational efficiency. The second topic I will discuss is a long-term solution for both established and new construction neighborhoods. Many of our proposed solutions include moving new construction neighborhoods into schools that need to fill seats. This is a win-win solution because a new neighborhood doesn't have any ties to a school or community yet, so they can start fresh and have stability. Additionally, this helps Wake County Schools fill seats, which we know the board is very concerned with accomplishing. This also helps with operational efficiency since one bus can pick up a majority of our neighborhood. Also, what is the justification for kicking out established neighborhoods with strong ties to the school and community, like Cameron Pond, just to make space for new construction? As it was previously suggested, there should be a rating system to give proper weight to established neighborhoods. For example, sign in number 10, a number for the number of years a neighborhood has been established. If it's been there 10 years, give it a 10. If it's been there 1 year, give it a 1. In closing, we humbly request to keep us where we are instead of moving us to another capped school much further away. We truly believe that with the declining enrollment numbers, we will be able to stay at Mills Park Elementary, and there are much better alternatives to resolve the Mills Park Middle School capping in particular. Moving Cameron Pond will have a minimal impact on Mills Park schools, but it will have a tremendous impact on our kids and families. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anjali Shenoy. I am a third grader at Cedar Fork Elementary. I am here to convince you to please let me stay at Cedar Fork Elementary, even without transportation. Please let me stay at Cedar Fork as I have been a stingray at Cedar Fork since kindergarten. I love the teachers, staff, and my fellow students who I have got to know over the past 4 years. Forcing me to go to a new school with a different calendar year than I am used to will have a negative impact on me. If you make me move to a new school, I will miss my friends at Cedar Fork whom I have known since kindergarten. Every Friday, I get to meet my teachers from my previous grades who care about me and support me. I am going to miss this the most. Since I will be in 4th grade next year, letting me stay at Cedar Fork won't increase the K-3 class size at Cedar Fork. Please let the stingray stay with its school, Cedar Fork Elementary, where we strongly believe in our motto, passion for learning, excellence for all. Please let me stay at Cedar Fork Elementary. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. Thank you so much for your time and commitment to Wake County families. It is difficult to find a compromise that suits a growing population, and I understand that changes need to be made to meet these needs. However, I am here today to request that students of families currently enrolled at Oak Grove and other schools may be grandfathered into the current school that they are attending without reapplication to that school, and that their siblings may be grandfathered in to schools for all their elementary school years. The stress created by changes in the formative years of elementary school have detrimental emotional effects on families, particularly children in current enrollment who do not meet the current criteria put forward by the current proposal. Research shows that consistency in school environment help foster community, stability, financial support, academic success, trust. Studies show that students that stay with teachers who know their students from year to year actually perform better on academic tests. I make this request with a heavy heart, knowing that you too must have had children or have children in Wake County schools, and knowing how stressful choosing a school is in general for parents. I believe that you understand that when you find a school that is a good fit for your family, that you would like to stay within that school community. Families in the same school community give back to their schools by supporting them financially, with their spirit, their time, and with their ideas for a better future to ensure the school's prosperity and longevity. When we moved to our permanent home in close proximity to Oak Grove, considered our base calendar option, my husband and I had to do a 120-second timed presentation to allow our oldest daughter, then 7 years of age, to attend Oak Grove Elementary. It was a very stressful experience, though the panel listening to our case were kind and empathetic. I thought we had solved an issue and we had a great school to attend. Now that choice is in jeopardy based on the current proposal. Please understand how important it is to allow parents to continue their children's schooling in a place that they choose. Please consider the parents and children of families that have chosen a school, been in that community, given time, financial support, and energy to that school. We all understand the need for more schools in our growing community, but not at the risk of displacing families from their current schools and causing great stress and heartache to the families currently enrolled in schools that need the grandfathering option and Oak Grove. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Benyu Matthew, Chrissy Campbell, and Vinjay Shenoy.
Good evening, board members. I would like to start off by saying thank you for taking your time to listen to us. We understand the volume of feedback that you're receiving, and it's not easy to take the decisions that you do. I represent the Cameron Pond neighborhood, and I'm here to reiterate the fact that we have been asking for a long time. Please keep us at Mills Park, but at the very least, we respectfully request that you please vote to defer the Cameron Pond assignment until you collect all the relevant data. We have presented genuine safety and operational efficiency concerns that will impact our neighborhood for the next 6 years. Carpenter Fire Station Road is the only point of ingress-egress from our neighborhood, and that makes our neighborhood in a very unique situation. Currently, the Carpenter Fire Station Road carries more than 13,000 vehicles a day compared to just 3,500 in 2003, and it's only going to increase. If the Northwest Cary YMCA is used as a hub for express busing, this exponentially increases the traffic, with parents dropping off students with the YMCA buses and also the staff going in and out of the campus. With the proposed widening project from 2 lanes to 4 lanes on Carpenter Fire Station Road, this will worsen the already notorious traffic congestion and create more obstacles for kids to get to school safely. On the other hand, if we can stay at Mills Park School, our kids can simply walk to school using the newly constructed greenway or take a single bus to Mills Park Elementary and Mills Park Middle School. A thank you to all the board members who took the time to visit our neighborhood. You were able to get a much better sense of proximity where you can literally see the rooftop of the middle school from our neighborhood. The proposed reassignment would require roundabout bus routes through this dangerous construction for Carpenter Elementary, Weatherstone Elementary, Green Hope Elementary, Alston Ridge Middle School, and West Cary Middle School. This is incredibly inefficient and a complete waste of resources. We have sent pictures of numerous accidents, videos of traffic, and current construction to school board members. All these issues will significantly increase with the construction, as well as limiting the ability for us to get in and out of our neighborhood. Please, we appeal to you as parents that you weigh safety and operational efficiency of our students as a high priority as you make this important decision that will impact our daily lives. Based on these facts, alternative solutions, and pervasive safety issues, we respectfully ask that you please keep us at Mills Park, or at the minimum, vote to defer the Cameron Pond reassignment. Make the right decision one time with all the data that you need so that it does not have to be changed again. Thank you very much for your time.
I want to start by congratulating Ms. Mahaffey, Ms. Roxy Cash, and Dr. Martin for being reelected. Thank you for giving our neighborhood the opportunity to continue to represent our concerns with the current reassignment plan. As you've heard from my neighbors, we're asking to stay at Mills Park, but at the very least, we are asking that you defer the reassignment decision while the assignment board formulates a long-term plan that will help alleviate ongoing crowding issues. While we understand that ongoing growth requires new schools to be built, the current assignment not only moves our children to a different school, but also a completely different calendar. We are a neighborhood of working parents, and this change, as Dr. Martin mentioned, will have a whiplash effect on many families. Families will need to apply for a traditional calendar, magnet, or even charter options and hope for the best. And let's be honest, Green Hope and Weatherstone are not realistic. Ultimately, there will be a lot of instability for families being forced to figure out before and after school childcare, as well as track out childcare in a short period of time. We'd also like to address the misperception that Cameron Pond has had stability since our neighborhood has not been reassigned since 2010. Mills Park Elementary has been capped since 2012, and many Cameron Pond children waited patiently to wait their turn to attend their base school. Just because we haven't been reassigned for a few years doesn't mean that we've had stability, since many of our kids were just able to get into the Mills Park schools this year. This reassignment will also cause children from Cameron Pond to attend various schools in the area, since both Green Hope and Weatherstone have limited spots available for calendar transfer requests. This means that you will have school buses coming to Cameron Pond from at least 4 different elementary schools, in addition to magnet schools, to pick up a few children on each ride. With operational efficiency being the assignment board's primary priority of the 4 pillars, this seems to be anything but efficient. In a previous working session, there's been a discussion from the board about moving Mills Park schools to a year-round calendar to increase capacity. If this is part of the long-term solution to meet the K-3 mandate, this will mean that Cameron Pond will probably need to be assigned back to Mills Park schools to fill capacity. This will lead to additional instability. In closing, I'd like to highlight that with the current assignment proposal, our children and our neighborhood is negatively impacted on all 4 pillars. Stability, we're being moved not only to a different school, but to a new calendar option, with the potential of having to move back. According to the work session, if you are truly considering changing to year-round, the Mills Park schools, keep us there, so we only have to experience one change. Operational efficiency. Buses from multiple schools will need to come into our small neighborhood while facing major obstacles as a result of Town of Cary's construction projects. Proximity. We're one of the closest neighborhoods to Mills Park, even without the Greenway. We can actually see the school from our neighborhood. And student achievement. Moving Cameron Pond to Carpenter Elementary will prove to be detrimental, as the growth surrounding Carpenter is far greater and will ultimately result in higher utilization than that of the Mills Park schools. Lastly, I listened to the work session. A plan to move us 2 years ago is not a viable argument to follow through on if there is still no viable option to relieve capping at Mills Park. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vijay Shenoy, and I'm a parent of a rising 4th grader at Cedar Fork Elementary, whom you just heard from a few minutes ago. I would like to start by wishing everyone here happy Diwali. I want to urge you to please grandfather kids like my daughter, a rising 4th grader, as having them move to a new school on a new calendar year than the one they are currently used to this late in the game will have a detrimental academic impact on them. Below are some of the key points I would like to make today. I live in Hamlet in the Park subdivision, established 17 years ago. It's about a mile from Cedar Fork Elementary School. And here are some of the reasons we should stay at Cedar Fork. There are only 10 kids. It's a small subdivision. There are only 10 kids from Hamlet in the Park that attend Cedar Fork. Moving them to Parkside won't make a dent in the numbers of the kids at Cedar Fork. 4 out of the 10 kids are rising 4th and 5th graders. As such, the impact on K-3 class size is minimal. The chances of Parkside opening as a traditional school looks bleak, even though there is a shortage of traditional schools in Western Wake County. The traditional application schools, which you have assigned to us per the new proposal, are not even close, neither geographically nor academically, compared to our existing base school. Hence, sending our kids to Powell or Pleasant Grove Elementary is out of the question. From my experience, class sizes at Cedar Fork Elementary have been shrinking as kids go into higher grades. My daughter's kindergarten class had 25 kids. Her first grade, 24 kids. Second grade, 22 kids. And now this year, her third grade class has a total of 20 kids, including 2 transfers from Carpenter Elementary. Which brings me to a set of few questions that I would like to ask the board members. If Cedar Fork Elementary is a capped school and is overcrowded, why do you approve transfer applications from year-round schools like Carpenter Elementary to Cedar Fork Elementary? Do these kids who have transferred over from other year-round schools to Cedar Fork get grandfathered automatically? If so, how is it fair to our kids who have been attending Cedar Fork since they were in kindergarten? Do you plan to grandfather only 4th graders who are proposed to be assigned to existing schools from other existing schools? If you plan to grandfather 4th graders, please grandfather all 4th graders. Please don't discriminate against 4th graders assigned to a new school from an existing school, like in the case of my daughter. We too pay our taxes just like the other parents. In conclusion, I would humbly request you let Hamlet in the Park stay with Cedar Fork or grandfather kids like my daughter who are rising fourth graders at Cedar Fork Elementary. Thank you, so they can finish their elementary school education at Cedar Fork Elementary. Thank you for your time.
Amanda Skivoyle, Anne Marie Bruce, and Leslie Douglas.
Good evening, board members. I am a mother of a current third grader at Oak Grove, also a rising fourth grader for next year, where he's attended since he was in kindergarten. We, in fact, moved from Durham to get into Oak Grove because we were so excited about the opportunity there. He's being impacted by the current plan with the, at least under draft 3, with a proposal that he be reassigned to Timber Drive, which is in the complete opposite direction of where we're at. We do not live in a subdivision. We live on a street where he is the only child who goes to Oak Grove. And as a rising fourth grader, of course, isn't part of the K through 3 legislation. It wouldn't be impacting that. So I, of course, have concerns about the stress and the scheduling problems that we have really for our family and the changes and the issues that that would cause for him, as well as the school activities that he attends, and based on where I work and where all of his activities have been within the district within the city of Cary. So we really, I'm here really to request not so much for our personal situation, but for the same reasons that others have expressed, that we've got a situation where it's just based on an address, and the algorithm seems to take into consideration just the address, but not the circumstances of where that child has already been. And so reassigning to another calendar year option seems like a seemingly arbitrary decision just based on the address of the household. Fortunately, I see that from the notes from this afternoon, it appears that you all have already considered this issue. So I feel like my thunder has been stolen. The proposal that I was here to advocate for was really the request that we have an automatic grandfathering process, whereby if a request is made by a family who is already in a calendar year option, that calendar year option be, the request to stay at that school be automatically approved if that request is made. And so thank you for considering that option. That would certainly be amenable to us. It's just the notion of being able to have that decision made early as a fast track in an earlier situation here in November, December would be really positive change, I think, to the proposal. At least then if that decision changed, it would give parents more time to make an alternate decision. So with that, I will not take up any more of your time, but I will request that hopefully that portion of the proposal is approved in the final plan. And thank you for your consideration.
Hi, my name is Anne Marie Bruce. I'm actually representing the North Savannah neighborhood, who has been slated to go from East Cary, which is switching to a traditional school, and it's going to adversely affect us as Pine Hollow now becomes our year-round option, which is actually 20 miles away from our current house. East Cary is actually only 6 miles from our house. We have 3 other year-round schools that are 50% closer than what Pine Hollow would be for us. We're both working parents. We have siblings. And we have the other sibling at Carpenter Elementary. So you talk of logistics with just being a transportation company. You want to get out of Alston Ridge. We want to go in. So, I mean, we just would like Draft 3 to have Alston Ridge as a second option for us as a year-round option when you guys transfer East Cary into the traditional calendar. And we would like to have that application restricted at least to the North Savannah neighborhood, if not including Ridgemont, Addison Park, Twin Lakes, and Town Commons. And again, this is to alleviate some of the hardship that would happen busing our kids 20 miles for a school that we know nothing about. We didn't move to Raleigh, we moved to Morrisville. Thank you.
So I feel that myself and other parents have brought up every logical reason why East Carey should not be changed to a traditional calendar. You've had parents speak to the school's problems: lack of confidence in administration and staff, lack of electives, students being unprepared for high school, the early start time of the school, the outdated appearance of the buildings. But yet, I don't remember one parent through any of this standing up in front of you to beg to change East Carey to a traditional calendar. We've talked about the new growth coming to the side of Carey as it's transitioning from older retired adults to young families, causing a population shift that our school system will fill in less than 5 years, in addition to the Fenton development that's definitely coming. We've talked about maps and how if you could change East Carey to traditional, then we'll get relocated to schools in Apex or Garner to be able to attend a year-round option, which equals a 30-minute commute one way. We feel as if you are pushing us out of the system by forcing us to choose between a calendar option that works for our families but requires an hour round trip, or to introduce a traditional calendar which throws our entire way of life and how our families function out the window. For our children that undoubtedly benefit from the year-round calendar with improved retention in their studies, attention in the classroom, as well as behavior, you're asking for us to give up the hope we have for the future of their education. Traditional is scary to most of us. It means higher and condensed child care costs, more expensive and less frequent family vacations, antsy bored children over the break, burned out kids by the end of the school year, as well as more struggles with school as they have to play catch up at the beginning of each new year. Changing East Carey to traditional leaves us choosing between sacrificing what we know is in the best interest of our children in lieu of the burden of 2-hour daily commutes and an unimaginable bus rides. You nor staff have given us a shred of evidence, not one data point, to give us comfort knowing that you're making this decision to switch East Carey to traditional for a viable, substantial reason. There's been no feedback to our concerns about this plan having a viable busing option for students. There's been no study to show that the buses will be able to handle getting students from North Carey to Apex or Garner in any reasonable amount of time. The county already has a busing problem. This plan will put more burden on the buses and do nothing to relieve the stress currently on the system. This plan has me going to Lufkin, which is 11 miles away. It's 4 times the current distance. And how can you ask that of us and not be able to provide reasonable transportation? And I'm going over, I'm really sorry. I know that you guys need to pass something, and I get it, but I'm pleading with you right now. You just had an election. You all have to remember the first time that you chose to run for school board. It wasn't to redistrict students or uproot them. I get that. I believe that is not why you chose this position. That's not why you chose to serve our county. I believe that you did it because you cared about the education of the students. And if you don't actually look into what the problems are at East Carey for the under-enrollment, and you make the assumption that the calendar fixes all the problems, you are just putting a Band-Aid on this problem. This problem will not go away.
I'm sorry,
in a few
time has
years.
expired.
It will be the same problem. So thank you.
Allison Del Piano, Laura Langenbach, and Christina Hasty.
Hi, I have a current first grader at Oak Grove Elementary. My name's Allison Del Piano. I'm happy to be here to see that the grandfathering policy has now been changed. I hope that you will keep it that way for calendar application students. My child has had the best introduction to public school. She was able to have the same teacher that she had for kindergarten now in first grade, so this is the only school that she's known. So the change in this policy for grandfathering really is a great thing for our family. I'm happy to provide transportation. That is a sacrifice I'm willing to make with this new grandfathering policy. So I just want to thank you, and I hope that you will pass that and that will not change. So that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Laura Longenbach. I have a current sixth grader at Reedy Creek Magnet Middle School, and I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to come and comment on the assignment plan. I've been thinking about what is really important to Reedy Creek Middle School in this plan, and it's very important to Reedy Creek Middle to be able to at least maintain the progress that is made over the last 5 years to become a great school. A school where parents are fighting to keep their students. Several years ago, this was not the case. Reedy Creek Magnet Middle School is a great school. The school used to suffer from low enrollment. With Mr. Evans' leadership, the school has really transformed over the past 5 years, becoming a magnet school 3 years ago. So I say great job to the school administration, the teachers, the parents, the students, and the school board for making Reedy Creek great. So now Reedy Creek Middle School has just become what you wanted, a fully enrolled, highly sought-after school. But now the plan is to reassign a very large number of our students. I hear that it's about 251 of our rising 7th and 8th graders who will be affected. The grandfathering plan does help, especially with the addition of the rising 7th graders to the plan. But a lot of our students at Reedy Creek will not have transportation. I can get my kids there. It will be a burden, but I can do it, and I will do it. A lot of families cannot. I think there have been very high estimates about the number of students that will be able to grandfather at the school, keeping our numbers up. I think it will be far fewer. With the magnet program at Reedy Creek being so new, it is very important that we do have a large number of returning 7th and 8th graders so that the magnet program can continue at a high level. There are magnet electives that need to be filled, and many of them can only be refilled with returning students because some of the classes have magnet prerequisites that you can only take at Reedy Creek. I feel like the new magnet program at Reedy Creek makes it a special case in this reassignment plan. Please consider transportation for our grandfathered students. Another reason to consider this, as the base students at Reedy Creek are the only students in the county who could not have applied to the magnet program at Reedy Creek last year. My student would have applied had we had the opportunity. And sixth grade is usually when the greatest number of magnet suits are available, and we could have applied for them. We missed out on that opportunity. Another option is to allow these students to apply for magnet students under priority of 5, which allows for base students who have been at a magnet school to have some priority to continue in the magnet program. We are told this does not apply when moving between schools at the same level, middle school to middle school. It seems to me that the reason for this rule is to allow students to continue in a program that they have started. It should apply to the Reedy Creek middle students who are being reassigned. Let them finish what they started. Thank you.
Good evening. I stand before you again, just as I did last year. My name is Christina Hasty, and I'm a resident of Carpenter Village. I second everything that my neighbor Tasha said, and I would like to expand on grandfathering. My daughter is a sensitive soul who loves laughing, reading, rock climbing, and cats. I think she loves cats most of all. School doesn't come easily for her, and she struggles sometimes with her self-confidence. She is 11. She's a sixth grader at Davis Drive Middle. Transitions give her anxiety, and this transition to middle school has been a big one. Just this week, she has been able to settle in a little and believe she can fit in at Davis Drive. All the older kids she knows in the neighborhood have attended Davis Drive Middle or are current students, and that has helped her a lot. This summer, she's looking forward to going to the 3-week summer camp in the mountains she's attended twice before. It's where she learned to ride a horse, get on stage and perform, and even shoot an arrow. Her camp spans late June to mid-July. This possible reassignment to Alston Ridge is crushing for her and our family. You are asking her to change to a new school with new people midway through middle school. Further, it has a calendar that makes it so she might not even be able to attend the camp that we planned and paid for before Draft 1 came out. And because our calendar option under this proposal would be West Cary,
There's no way for her to have any continuity of any kind at all. I pleaded in the forum for you to let rising 7th graders grandfather in their current schools, and I'm pleading for it again. I saw in draft 3 that all the rising 7th and 8th graders not assigned to Alston Ridge Middle School are being allowed to grandfather, and I'm here to ask for equal treatment for areas that have been assigned to Alston Ridge Middle. Your video on student assignment talks about the trade-off between operational efficiency and stability, but I believe that by forcing middle school kids to move partway into their middle school career, you're trading more than stability. You're making life unnecessarily difficult for students at an already tumultuous time in their development. You're making things harder for school administration by taking chunks of their kids and moving them, and for families, and you're compromising student achievement by forcing these students to readjust. Alston Ridge is going to fill up. Trust. You do not need 100% occupancy in the first year to make your numbers work. In fact, by the time my younger daughter is ready to attend, you'll probably be talking about reassigning Carpenter Village again. Carpenter Village is an established neighborhood more than 20 years old. Davis Drive is a school community that my neighbors and I have helped build. If you must reassign us, please do us the decency of allowing our current middle school students to grandfather, and please consider letting us keep Davis Drive as a calendar option to maintain some stability for our neighborhood. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Penny Como Welch, Jessica Gutierrez, and Jen Smith.
Good evening, board members. Thank you very much once again for giving us the opportunity to come before you and voice our concerns. My name is Penny Kumu Welch. I'm a mother of a third grader and a kindergartner, and I am part of a group of families who are affected by the removal of Morrisville Elementary School as our calendar option, and instead reassigning us to Adams Elementary School. I had heard and took heart from your working session last week that there might be a resolution to this in the form of allowing us to come in as transfer students rather than calendar application students. I had hoped to come before you today with a thank you after a resolution in today's session, but I realized that you had not actually gotten to the topic yet today. So as I understand that you will be going back into session to discuss that, among other things, I did want to just remind you of a few things, that the families in our situation are 100% happy to go without transportation in a way to benefit operational efficiency. Morrisville Elementary School is currently not capped. And also, we just this year, for the sake of argument for the K through 3 legislation, have lost a kindergarten teacher. So, and in track 2 kindergarten, we only have 1 kindergarten teacher. So it feels like that there is room for flexibility in our situation if the K3 requirement is really something of a deep concern in this situation. So I would just like to say again, as I have to my many emails to many of you, to please do consider allowing us to grandfather our families into Morrisville Elementary School for the tenure of their elementary school careers without transportation, and we would be forever grateful. Thank you very much.
Caroline's going to help me out, pass something out for y'all. Okay, go ahead. I thought a hard copy was better than email. My name is Jessica Gutierrez. I'm the parent of a 6th grader and represent several parents from Reedy Creek. I'm a visual person. You want to hold this one for me first? This is just a little bit about the numbers. So Reedy Creek had a historic under-enrollment. It was a huge problem that they tasked the families in that community to help deal with. Sorry. You can see Reedy Creek began magnet in 2015. Enrollment has steadily increased. The blue graph is East Cary's numbers. Obviously, there have been some changes to both schools. I don't know all the factors involved. I don't know the history of both schools. I don't know what changes they've been through. I know they're on 2 different calendars. We've been very successful at Reedy Creek. They have a fantastic staff, administration. Everybody there has worked together with the parents to build the school that is today. We have the projections. This is just the latest from Bill's memo today that he sent to parents. This is about where they're looking to fall. Parents think that this number is actually going to be much lower. We know our school has a much higher free and reduced lunch population. We know there are a lot of single-parent families, working families, that cannot transport their students. We do not think, even though you are giving us the gift of allowing our 7th graders to grandfather, that you're going to have a very high number taking that up, at least not 80%, which is part of what's contained in the estimate, it looks like. So we are concerned about how that is going to impact our school. We're concerned we're going to go back to an under-enrollment situation. We're also concerned how that's going to affect the school in terms of losing teachers. Okay, now you can hold that one up. That's just a quick glance. I've got some numbers that we passed out to you guys. I understand for middle school, for every 23 to 24 kids you lose, as those numbers goes down, the funding formula changes and you lose teachers. We do not want to see Reedy Creek impacted this way. The program you've asked us to build, that you've asked Mr. Evans to build, is going to be impacted once we start taking away students and teachers. So we beg you to please check these numbers, survey parents, don't impact the school on top of impacting these families. It's a unique program. It's just gotten stable. So please, please consider these numbers before you uproot so many students. We understand that the initial estimates were about 400 student spaces. You put back Kingswood, so thank you to those families. It's not so important to keep entire feeder schools together. Look at specific neighborhoods, keep neighborhoods together. But let's do what we can to keep Reedy Creek stable and let it thrive. We don't need to make all the changes immediately, but please reconsider transportation. We know that our school is going to take a big hit. We understand that we have so many families that cannot transport their students. They started this fantastic magnet program. Families are committed, students are committed. Let them finish where they started. Thank you.
Okay, and I just again, thank you. I'm Jen Smith. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to speak. And I briefly looked at the update from the working session before now, and I appreciate the grandfathering because she's a 6th grader right now. But like Jessica said, we do have a lot of working families who have said they can get there. They just don't know how they're going to get home without bus transportation. And so please consider that. This is, and what I think when I'm looking over the drafts, there's several things that have come to mind. When we look at capacity numbers, estimates for middle schools in Cary, we have next year, if this reassignment goes through, and I maybe tweaked a little bit because of the Kingswood, but at the last data that I saw, that we would go from 108% capacity down to 66% capacity. And in the estimate for the numbers for next year, it is, and what I saw, thank you again, Mr. Fletcher, for sending us the information. It talks about an assumption of trying to get 90 or more students, again, to try to fill this, I think to get to that 66% is my understanding. That would be rising magnet 6th graders, and the target schools would be Mills Park and Davis Drive Middle. And I have to admit, I laughed a little bit when I saw Davis Drive Middle. It was like, they want to stay. We've all heard them say how much they want to stay, and I've heard Mills Park people say they want to stay. So to assume that all of a sudden we can get magnet numbers to rise to these estimates just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Another concern we've had, just trying to get the data from a Reedy Creek's perspective, is we were told when this whole process started, we had a new capacity number. And I get data. I like data. It gives me a reason to tell her, okay, we may have to move. But then the data didn't make sense. We got a number, we asked for about a month and a half. Why all of a sudden we had a number in the 800s for capacity for Reedy Creek? You can understand how frustrating that was. I was asking, we were asking, can you please show your work and explain why we need to move? And we were not given that information. And now with draft 3, now we're up to 936 as our capacity number. So all of a sudden that urgency to move all of us doesn't make a lot of sense. We're going from 108% capacity, according to the Wake County numbers, to next year Reedy Creek going down to 66%. Why are we taking so many families and change, which will change Reedy Creek, and as Jessica already said, what that means for our staff, and how can we attract all these magnet people if we don't have the classes, if we don't have the staff to justify, we don't have the numbers to justify the staff. So please, considering deferring us, the numbers do not indicate a rush to take so many of us away. And if something has to be done, please consider transportation. I can drive. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I got a minivan. I'll get as many as I can. But that's not everybody else. Thank you for your time.
Christina Barillo-Kirch, Nancy Joyner-Kay, and Paul Korupis.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the chance to voice my opinion. I'm here asking you to reconsider the limited grandfathering policy that is being offered to those current Panther Creek High School students slated to attend grade level. Please change it to allow those students that lack siblings or have younger siblings and currently attend Panther Creek to be given the option to remain at Panther Creek. My daughter is a 9th grader at Panther Creek. Switching her to green level would introduce emotional and academic hardship to my daughter and others like her. High-performing students 2 grade levels ahead in math require taking pre-calculus in 10th grade. Pre-calculus, as well as other AP classes, are not guaranteed at green level. I know I've asked at the last working session. I was told there would be no guarantee. This is an academic hardship. My daughter is also one of those students that have put down roots at Panther Creek by joining band or other clubs that will either not be available at green level or not the same at green level. This is an emotional hardship. They forged friendships in these different clubs, and that will be traumatizing emotionally. My daughter has already been through a hardship. Due to an error by her principal of her elementary school, her class size was too large, and my daughter was removed mid-year in kindergarten. My daughter was traumatized by this decision for the remainder of the year. You're asking hardworking students to be okay with the unknown, okay with a lack of guarantee of needed classes. We are not okay with this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Joyner-Kay, and I have a student at Oak Grove Elementary. And the reason I'm here is that our neighborhood, Lockmere, has essentially been split. And so the kids living forward of the pool toward Tron Road, which amounts to 23 kids, have been reassigned to, I think it's Adams Elementary, which is also year-round. And I'm asking you not to do this for several reasons. Oak Grove currently has the same enrollment as a traditional calendar school because half of track 1 and half of track 4 are missing, even though they are wildly popular. The school was built for 4 tracks, 2 homerooms. And it just is curious to me that I've not seen that ever discussed. And I would ask that before you move students from a school, that you at least try to fully enroll it. And they may say, well, those classrooms that were, although I've not heard that were allocated for half of track 1 and 4 have been allocated for something else. I mean, my goodness, Wake County schools are littered with trailers on all the school campuses, and ours would be no different. And I would just ask that you do that instead. And I do realize that you have allowed for grandfathering, but grandfathering is for the privileged. You know, it's for somebody who can drive there and drive back. And I would ask that you just keep everybody, you know, and provide the school transportation if it's needed. And let's see. And maybe consider this. You know, you've got principals who are rock stars. Why not reassign them? You know, I have older children who have aged out of the school system. And I can remember Scott Lyons. I mean, my kids would have followed him to the end of the earth. I see a lot of reassignment of students, but I don't see any discussion of reassignment of administrative personnel, principals, assistant principals, and rockstar teachers. I mean, they have a pivotal effect on the community, and I would ask that you also consider that. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Paul Karupis, and I'm a resident of Carpenter Village. I had a son who graduated Davis Drive Middle School last year, and now I have a daughter attending Davis Drive in the 6th grade. My neighbors, Tasha and Christine, did an excellent job of identifying the flaws in the logic of the plan as it pertains to our situation at Carpenter Village and school assignment. This is the second year in a row that Carpenter Village has been targeted for school reassignment. Last year, the board realized that the school reassignment made no sense for Carpenter Village and wisely preserved the status quo. This year, though, staff once again has proposed to reassign Carpenter Village children from Davis Drive. As my neighbors pointed out, there's no reason that the proposed grandfather rules cannot be extended to 6th graders as well as 7th and 8th graders. In the context of school overcrowding, the number of children impacted is insignificant, but in terms of the impact on our children, it's enormous. And to sort of highlight that, my daughter is going to have to attend 4 schools in 5 years. So much for stability. Those pillars you put up there, your emphasis on efficiency is a little extreme. And I want to sort of highlight one of the consequences of that. We see all the stories about the hazards of being a tween or a teenager in the age of social media. And we're now seeing a flood of studies about the particular harm that social media has on teenage girls and tween girls. And so this board is going to be subjecting these students, as we've heard from numerous parents, to all sorts of disruption that is only going to drive them further into social media because their real world is chaos and disorder. So over the next few years, as our pediatricians start seeing more and more cases of self-harm and other effects, I want this board to recognize your role in doing it through the disruption that you're creating in their everyday lives. And I say that not to be accusatory or confrontational, but it is something that you need to understand and recognize as part of your role here and the impact that you're having on these children. Thank you.
Ian Robati, Amy Mendick-Walling, and Cindy Huntley. Ian? Oh, sorry.
Hi. Somehow I always end up all the way in the back. I don't know why that happens. Like, it's not that I don't know I'm speaking. Hello. Here we are again to talk about the reassignment or the lack of choices, reasonable choices being offered to Morrisville developments as alternatives to Parkside Elementary School, which we understand is confirmed as year-round. So we're not even asking for Parkside to be traditional anymore, but, I mean, you guys, like, just parent to parent, you have to give us something to work with. Like, we already get bused all the way across town to middle school in the opposite direction, so that's cool. And so we know the disruption that causes to our family lives, to our jobs, to our children's extracurricular activities. There is not an element of family life that's not disrupted by an hour commute one way. It's pervasive. And so I'm just here to ask one more time to figure something out so that we can have a traditional option in a reasonable distance to our homes. I know that your job is so difficult. I mean, I listen to the work sessions, and I've never lived anywhere that let you do that, so that's great. But I've listened to the work sessions, and I understand. And from actually meeting with some of you, which I also appreciate, I get that it is really hard, but there are 4 traditional schools within a proximate distance to our homes. And, it's interesting because someone from Cameron Pond said, a system where neighborhoods would be weighted according to how long they've been there when choices are made in proximity choices are made. The students that you're shuffling all the way across town to Powell without transportation or Pleasant Grove with it, their weighted average would be 14 years, if my calculation's correct. That's a lot of time that we have invested in the communities, invested in the traditional schools that we attend. And I mean, we've attended, I'm going to say, most of the traditional schools in the area. So anyway, thank you very much again. I appreciate the opportunity to plead my case again, and have a nice evening.
Good evening. My name is Amy Mindick-Walling. I'm a parent of a 5th grade only child at Adams Elementary. So my options are kind of wide open for next year. I feel like it's somewhat of a foregone conclusion of the plan because East Cary being reassigned seems like it's going to happen. So I want to kind of go over some lessons learned that I've been looking at and that I hope you'll listen to. 2 big points. The first is giving a voice to year-round, and the second is planning in advance. The giving a voice to year-round, there are a lot of parents that come up and say, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world, my kid's going to be switched to year-round. I think this is a problem with how year-round schools are treated. Ms. Kushner and Mr. Fletcher said they attended a magnet fair over the weekend. I don't know if they also realized that it was a year-round event as well. I attended the Thursday Magnet Theme Thursday, which is also a year-round event, and we got 3 sentences out of the hour. So I'd appreciate more concern given to year-round schools because it is an excellent option, as Leslie touched on before. The other thing I'd like to touch on is that I've been touring schools because my options are now open to me with a 5th grader. I have an option of a base school, a year-round school, the year-round school, which is switching to a base school, and another traditional base. So I have, and 9 magnet schools that we have the option to go to. So I've toured 4 of them so far. And one thing that I'd like to see with year-rounds is to have a path provided. All of the magnet schools do this. You have a path. If you get in elementary, you get into middle, you get into high school, you have a path that's all planned out. If you're a parent in the system, you're happy because you make one choice at the beginning and then you're done. And I feel like that would be a benefit to the year-round as well. And in addition, the plan that we have here tonight, the first I heard of it was August, which is 4 months. I'm a planner, so I like to know what's going on. And here we are 2 months from the opening of the magnet window. I feel like every presentation I've attended starts with a slide that says, here's our 5, 10, 15, 20-year plan. We know when the schools are opening. We know when the schools, what's happening to our students and our influx there. I would like to see more planning in advance so that this isn't an issue. I'd like to know more than 2 months in advance what my options are going to be for my students' continuing education. Thank you.
Hi. First of all, thank you for allowing us to voice our concerns tonight. I know you probably only hear from parents when we aren't happy about something, and rarely or never when we are happy, and that's not a fun job. My children attend Oak Grove Elementary School, and we are slated to be moved to Adams Elementary next year. I toured Adams before my oldest entered kindergarten. I liked it. Truth be told, I actually might have liked it better than Oak Grove at the time. But now, Adams is not our school. Oak Grove is, and we don't want to leave.
I am also requesting that all current students affected by the reassignment be allowed to grandfather into the schools they are at. Stripping kids from the schools they have become comfortable with is disruptive to them, both socially and academically. It harms their ability to make and maintain friendships and reduces their trust in the educational system. Kids who have had a big life change are more likely to have trouble concentrating and focusing at school, which in turn hurts them academically. And yes, to a 5 or 7-year-old child, changing schools is a big deal. Think about how you feel as an adult starting a new job, and imagine being a child with already limited control over your life. Now you have new rules, routines, and procedures to learn, and a new building to navigate, all while being the new kid trying to make friends. In addition to the stress reassignment places on students, it also deeply affects families. Parents work hard to make arrangements that work for their families. Sometimes these arrangements have been planned for years. My sister-in-law moved back to the area and chose their house based on where our kids could attend the same school. We share bus pickup and after-school childcare. This allows us both to work part-time, and since we both have medical issues, this gives us flexibility to attend to these needs as well. Even in cases where people do not have family in the area, they create family. They forge friendships and relationships, the kids and the parents, helping each other out with after-school activities, transportation, and playing and getting together over school breaks. These relationships and communities matter. Please help us keep them intact. And one more note specifically on Oak Grove, as someone mentioned, enrollment has actually been dropping the past couple of years. It's nowhere near capacity. My son started out in a track where there were 2 kindergarten classes. By first grade, that class had been down to 1 class that was full, and then another class that was half first and half second grade. And this year, I believe they only have the 1 second grade for that track. So, the numbers definitely, I know that there's only 13 spots that are moving from Oak Grove to Adams, and I think that Oak Grove still has the capacity for those. Thank you.
Sudhir Subramani, Elizabeth Kahn, and Brenda Nichols.
Hello, good evening to all. Myself, Sudhir Subramanian, and from my side and all my friends and neighbors who could not be here, a very, very happy Diwali to you. I'm here to continue providing parent feedback to school assignment draft 3 proposal as one of the many affected families in the Parkside Bay School map. For these families who send kids to traditional school, not much has changed from draft 1 to draft 3. I would like to present our concerns covering a few different points. First one, economic diversity. Morrisville has about 40% renter population with varying income scales from low to median income, and most prefer traditional schools. The cost of expensive childcare or track-out camps alone would be a big deterrent to keep this economic diversity in the Parkside map. I have personally heard of quite a few renter families in Bexley and Hamlet saying they will move out to rent elsewhere to get into a traditional school. And several have resigned to accept that the upcoming school assignment proposal appears to be myopic to these concerns and seems to be fixated on opening more multi-track year-round schools in the area. Point number 2, the number of students in the proposed Parkside Elementary School map. Let's look at the prevailing 2018 school assignments for all the communities in the Parkside map. None of these communities are in the walk zone for any elementary schools, be it traditional or year-round. Currently, they either take the school bus or drive their kids, or in some cases, use the before-school childcare transportation. And on doing a fact check, almost 90% of these families use school bus. We spent some effort to determine the current bus stop counts across all affected communities in Parkside map, and we could only get 520 kids who take the bus to the assigned base school or calendar application options. If Parkside Elementary opens traditional, and all these 520 kids, traditional and year-round, go to Parkside Base, would it really be 148% overcrowded, which is projected to be 922 plus kids, about 400 more? These numbers should give some room to open Parkside traditional and consider converting it to a multi-track year-round if the projected 148% becomes a reality in the next few years. We urge the school board to give attention to these numbers again. Third point is about K-3 mandate. With yesterday's midterm election results, there is no more a supermajority in the House for NC. We hope that this gives room to relax the K-3 mandate, especially for schools in high-growth urban population, and urge the school board to revisit the stance to have new schools built as multi-track year-round in Western Wake County. With these points, I sum up with a few final statements. Traditional seats are in demand in Western Wake. Please open some new schools traditional to support the community needs. There are already 3 multi-track year-round schools adjoining Morrisville. If the 4th one needs to be a multi-track year-round, then please give traditional families better options by keeping us where we are. Please listen to the people. I sum it up. Thank you very much. Thanks for all your time.
Good evening. Elizabeth, who was going to speak now, she had to leave, so I'm going to step in kind of last minute and take her spot. My name is Lisa Johnsich. My child was initially proposed to be moved from Reedy Creek to West Cary Middle School, and on the last draft that was changed and he was moved back to Reedy Creek. I'm not sure who to thank for that change, but thank you, thank you, thank you. We're very grateful. We love Reedy Creek and feel like it's the best place for our son for a number of reasons. While we're so happy that he can stay there, I do have a lot of concerns about the school losing close to 40% of its students at once to East Cary. Under the current draft, the capacity of Reedy Creek is only expected to be at 66%, which seems shockingly low. It seems certain that with that many students leaving, there could be an extensive loss of teachers and staff, and that would have a very negative effect on the school and the remaining students. As I know you know, just a few years ago, Reedy Creek was struggling. I didn't have a child there at the time, but I heard things that made me very nervous about sending my son there. I was so relieved to hear all the positive things that have been happening in the last few years as changes were made that really turned it around. Changes that I know came about in large part due to the efforts of many of the families and the staff that would now be forced out. So if I could be as grateful as I am, if I could be so bold as to ask for one more thing, is that you take care not to destabilize the school by drastically cutting its enrollment and staff. So many good things are happening there that should be continued and not be put in jeopardy of being ruined. So thank you.
Okay, we really did try to keep it to 3 or 4 speakers from Cameron Pond, but there's just so many points to make that, sorry, you're going to have to endure a 5th one tonight. Sorry about that. Number one, I wanted to say thank you to helping out our Cameron Pond North neighbors and having them kept at Alston Ridge Elementary and Alston Ridge Middle. That's what they wanted. Thank you for accommodating their side of the neighborhood wishes. So now, representing Cameron Pond South, we're still very, very disappointed, and we still want you to consider fully the many, 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 many options that have been proposed to deal with the Cameron Pond South situation. One of the tenets of all of the student reassignment goals is to impact as few students as possible because of all the things we've heard about, how it impacts their emotional and psychological development. I have a crying 7-year-old at home. I have a mad as hell 5th grader at home. They are not performing like they should be performing in school this year because of all of this, right? So it is impacting them, and that's really hard to see as a parent. Very hard to see as a parent. So please impact as few students as possible. And you can do that by, instead of moving Cameron Pond, which does not solve your capping issues, as my colleagues from Cameron Pond have said, and move Ridgefield Farms. A brand new neighborhood has very few homes occupied at this particular moment in time. Forget about 540. Why is that a boundary? That is the answer. Every time we ask the Office of Student Assignment, well, Ridgefield Farms is on the other side of 540. So what? Buses go over and under 540, not on it. It is not a boundary. And there are plenty of examples in the plan where neighborhoods east of 540 go west to school and vice versa. So why is this argument exclusively used to the Cameron Pond situation? It is not fair. We have a single contiguous sidewalk that gets us from Cameron Pond to the Mills Park schools. Does not cross a single intersection, only crosses driveways, entrances to other communities. So we have huge safety concerns about the growing construction projects going on in our neighborhood and around our neighborhood and out to 55 to the east of our neighborhood. Everything to the west is built. We can get to Mills Park safely. We cannot get to Carpenter safely. So please consider the safety of our children. Impact as few students as possible by looking at any one of the number of opportunities and other considerations, and delay your vote on what to do with us. There are so many things to consider that the only thing you can do is continue to research to find the best solution possible. Thank you very much.
Kristen Stone, Chris Lombardo, Joni Peterson, and Thomas Brown.
Hey there. I'm a mother of two first graders, and I know you have a tough job with the rising population and are overall just trying to do your best to impossibly make everyone happy, and I appreciate your hard work. I'm from Carpenter Village, and I'm asking to keep Davis Drive Middle School for our neighborhood. My mom has been living in North Carolina for over a decade, and we realized after we had kids what a wonderful place it would be to raise them, and decided to settle here. But instead of moving to Cary to be near her, we chose Chapel Hill in large part because we heard from many sources that Wake County's schools were a mess and that nothing could be counted on. After living in Chapel Hill for some time, my mother offered for us to move into her house in Carpenter Village in Cary when she left for a senior living facility. And despite the fact that in Chapel Hill we could only afford to live in an apartment, and despite the fact that our house is larger and walkable to a pool and a park and a library, we still debated for months about whether to leave Chapel Hill for Cary because we were concerned about the schools. Finally, we were convinced that overall a house would be better than an apartment for our young children. But sure enough, literally within weeks of our move to Carpenter Village, last year there was an attempt to take Davis Drive Middle School away from us. Gladly it failed, and I thank those decision makers, but here it is back again. I was recently up in Concord, Massachusetts to see my brother, who's quite well off financially, and I asked him how he had chosen his beautiful neighborhood. He immediately said, "We looked up the top 5 school districts around Boston, visited them, and made our choice." Many people with children choose their homes and their neighborhoods, which is a huge aspect of their entire lives, based on local school quality. We're dismayed at the continued talk of taking top-ranked Davis Drive Middle School away from Carpenter Village, only to send us to a new school of unknown quality, and we don't understand why a long-established neighborhood should have to make a change. Many people in Carpenter Village, including us, moved there specifically for the excellent schools that we've long been zoned for. Please let the new people arriving to the new developments make their choice to move to Cary or not based on schools available to them when they come in. Cary has an unfortunate reputation at this point, and I've already heard of people moving away because they're fed up with the constant reassigning. Our ranking a few years ago as a best place to live attracted some of the best and brightest, and the best and brightest care a lot about education. Please don't send our town downhill by driving them away through constant uncertainty about one of the most important aspects of their lives. Please let the new people attend the new schools, and please do what you can to allow people who have moved to a neighborhood to count on the school assignments that they desired and expected when they made the huge decision of where to live. And thank you again, because I do know this is not easy for anyone. Appreciate it.
Hey, I am a friend of Chris Lombardo's, who is unable to speak right now. But I want you to know that I walked to Cary High. I walked to East Cary, and I was the first people that opened up Farmington Woods. So I've seen a lot of change in Cary, probably more than any of you guys have. Probably a lot more than anybody in the place has. You know, I know that the growth in Wake County is crazy. You guys have a tough job. I don't envy it at all. You know, but this plan is not the right one for Wake County kids, and it's not the right one for the parents. I don't understand why you guys haven't considered a change in leadership at East Cary instead of changing it to a traditional calendar. There's a lot more evidence that poor leadership is driving low enrollment and test scores at East Cary. why do you think that changing to a traditional calendar will magically fill the kids with school, or the school with kids, much less high-achieving kids? Have y'all thought about that? I know you can't answer me. Proximity is another thing that you guys is one of your pillars. Proximity to what? If I want my child to go to a middle school that's a year-round middle school, she's going to have to go, or both of them are going to have to go out of Cary to do that because there's no other option for me in Cary. That's ridiculous. 75% of the kids that go to Adams opt in for Adams. So there is a demand for year-round option. When I drive to school right now, I've got a 6-minute drive to Adams or East Cary. It used to be a 15-minute bus ride. Now it's over an hour. It's a whole other transportation issue. I don't know who made the choice on that. But if you guys move my children to Lufkin Road, it's over a half an hour ride for me to get there with no traffic, much less, coming up US 1 to get back to my house over off of 55 or 54. It'll be over an hour for me to get back and forth, which is, again, it's unrealistic. I don't understand how you guys would think that being on a bus, children being on a bus for over 2 hours a day is healthy or conducive to learning. If you guys are in the business of making kids smart and educating them, keeping them on a bus isn't going to make them smart. And then what about the impact of the parents who volunteered to be a part of their children's lives? We can't be a part of it if we're in traffic for 2 hours trying to get there back and forth. So, the bonds got passed, much to my chagrin. I really don't understand why people vote to raise their own taxes, but oppose it when a politician suggests it. You guys can't build your way out of a growth problem. And we've got schools now that need maintenance, that need to be repaired, that need things done to it. You can't keep building new schools and forgetting about the old schools. You guys spend a ton of money. I've done work with you guys on the maintenance side. Y'all are killing it money-wise, but it's just not being spent properly. I think y'all should look differently and not rush to make a decision about East Cary. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I get his name again? I'm sorry. That was not Chris Lombardo. Could you state your name again, sir, so we have your name? I'm sorry.
Chris Jones, a friend of Chris Lombardo.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Hi. Oh, can you hear me? I'm a little nervous. I've come to every forum, but I've never felt comfortable speaking. But I am Joni Peterson, and I am a parent at Reedy Creek Magnet Middle School. But what we need to remember is we are the only center for the digital sciences, the only one we have. And my understanding is the only one at all. So we are a very different case, and I decided I have a 7th grader. So he, from the beginning, has been grandfathered. He's my youngest. My oldest, too, went to Reedy Creek, so I've been there for longer than the other parents who spoke. So I was there before anyone wanted to be there. And I can tell you I appreciate Mr. Evans being sent to us because he has made a world of difference. And I wanted to speak on behalf of him and the staff because where we have come is so far, and the commitment that we all made. And Mr. Evans included us in that. He came to PTA meetings. He spoke on the fact that being in the 800s was under enrollment and that was a problem. And he expressed to us how important it was to us to join together as a school family, as parents, as PTA board members. We went to feeder schools. We explained what they needed to know. We encouraged them because he explained to us that the first year becoming a magnet, you wouldn't see the difference. And it was true. I had to explain to friends of mine on tours, you're not going to see it. The second year, which was only last year, we saw the difference. I know some of you have toured our school with legislatures. We were given the example that we should be a model, which is great. But I'm very concerned that leaving us vulnerable by such a large amount of students being moved at one time is going to immensely change the dynamics of the school. The staff is concerned, and they are able to tell me, and I wanted to speak up for them tonight because I won't be a parent there for much longer. But I was there, and we all committed ourselves. Mr. Evans really made sure we understood to become a school family and the importance of all of us working together, and I wanted to speak up for them tonight because we just this year were able to walk in and take a breath.
We were like, last year all the pieces of the puzzle fit for the first time, our second year as a magnet. And we walk in and this whole change, this whole threat has been made upon us. I know things have to happen. I understand feeder schools might need to change. We all understand that. We're driving past East Cary. We understand that. But what I'm concerned about is leaving Reedy Creek with such a large amount of students being moved at one time would leave them to be too vulnerable. I also want to point out, I'm not familiar with the grandfathering program, and I'm concerned with our population. I would really hope that when it comes to grandfathering, that information gets mailed home, because we all know that middle school students will not get that to their parents. And I really, really am concerned that these parents understand the procedure and how it works and the time frame, because I'm afraid we're going to lose a lot of our population because of that issue. I know we can't affect the transportation, and I'm concerned we have the highest number of free and reduced lunch. But please handle that appropriately. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Tom Brown. This whole redistricting thing, it's dividing families. You are making us choose between our two kids, one of whom is going to be in Westlake Middle, rising up to Middle Creek High School. You're asking one of them to go to Lufkin. We are strong advocates for our kids. We attend after-school programs, participate in the PTA. My wife is actually a teaching assistant over at Oak Grove. We supply the classrooms with supplies. If we have to drive 20 minutes in each direction, we're not going to be able to attend both their programs. We're going to have to figure out which kid we're going to support that evening and so forth. This kind of uncertainty is no good. Proposing this grandfathering process with no transportation, it's just not tenable for most families. Either you have to offer it to everybody with transportation or nobody, in my opinion. It just doesn't make sense to prefer those who have the unique opportunity to do it one way or the other. The kids who are in classes right now, that's a known quantity that you can plan around. Why move them? Plan for the new kids coming in. You spent a lot of time at the beginning of the meeting congratulating each other about things. I was actually very touched by Dr. Martin's story about the school bus driver. The cynic in me says that's great. That's a relationship that the kids have developed with that school bus driver. That kind of thing is going to go away if you move them around. And by the way, that's a great out-of-the-box story. I would encourage you guys to maybe help out with some of that. I don't think you guys, I mean, it's great to tell that story, but it wasn't your doing. It was the uniqueness of that school bus driver. I'm going to pick on Ms. Cash just for a second. Because words are important, she said, hopefully we will do great things for the community with this bond. Not hopefully. This is something that you guys need a plan for. You need a 10-year plan. Bonds are long-term CapEx money. To have more than one bond in a particular period of time, that's lack of planning. You should have the funds you need. If you ask for it, you will get it. We will vote for you. You will get it. I'm happy to pay that tax. If you can't get it, and that's the wrong method, part of your job is to work with the Wake County Commissioners to figure out what the problem is. Just asking for money to build things is not necessarily the solution. You've got to change the politics. You've got to get things from the developers. That's something only the commissioners can do. That's part of your job to advocate for that as well. Kids are not a commodity. They're not a shell game to make your numbers look good. Moving people around is just going to destroy relationships. They're not hogs or oil futures. Think about during your recent election how you felt, that uncertainty that you felt. You're grown adults. You're equipped to handle that. Think about what these kids are thinking right now. They're not equipped for that. Thank you.
We'll move through our agenda. And Glenn, are you close? Okay. Sorry. Yeah, that's why he's right there.
So I believe we're on slide 16.
Ethics.
So prior to leaving, Ms. Cash, you had asked me to get some numbers, and I did get those numbers. The particular catchment that you were asking about has 25 middle school students that would be assigned to Pine Hollow. Okay? Yep. For that particular catchment, that neighborhood area.
The smaller one.
The smaller, yeah, yes. Well, that's who's attending year-round today, who we would assign to year-round. Yep, and then you asked for the entire area. No, that's just the smaller neighborhood
Just the
area
neighborhood
catchment.
you asked for.
The larger catchment area, that whole blue area on that map, that is 45 middle school students in year-round today.
And so, it's 25. So, when I talked about wondering if they would have an option to Austin Ridge instead of Pine Hollow. We also talked a little bit about Salem being a possibility. You mentioned that.
Yep.
Is that better? Is that a better option for us as a system than Austin Ridge?
In my opinion, yes, Salem would be a better option if you don't want to do Pine Hollow, rather than Alston Ridge Middle School, because again, the growth in the area and just with a brand new school, wanting to see what that growth would be like.
Okay, so that's something that, I love that, what you just said. Okay, so that helps me.
Okay.
Because that might be something that might be a better option for the system.
Okay. So is that something that you want to get a thumbs up on for us to make changes to?
Is that what you're asking, Ms. Cash?
Yeah, I'm asking that. So I was asking for that small catchment area, the small catchment.
Just the small catchment area? Okay.
To have a different option than Pine Hollow. Can't be Austin Ridge, could be Salem as that.
Can we see it on maps?
Salem, do you have a way to do that?
Salem was a choice for one of the other catchment areas?
For the areas to the south there, yes.
Okay. It'd be helpful to see.
You had that map up that showed the different areas? Remember you called that back?
They're going to do.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't. in-
Go back to draft
That's what I'm
one.
saying, he needs time to pull it up.
Yep.
Matt's doing it. I was answering your question.
And that's 45 just in that subset of the original Pine Hollow catchment, or the whole original Pine Hollow
45 in that
catchment?
blue area that would
Okay.
be assigned to Pine
How
Hollow.
many students are in that entire, 45 in that whole?
45 that are in year-round middle school today that we would assign to Pine Hollow as a year-round middle
Okay,
schooler.
thank you.
No, go to the calendar applications. It was West Cary.
I think from what I understand, I think Salem and Austin Ridge are similar distance probably from that area.
Yeah,
So I want to do
they're pretty
that
proximate.
for planning. If that's a Ridge is an option, then
It's not that.
Is that? Yeah. So we have the maps pulled up here. Is towards the north and west. So there would be a break in the application area. So you will have an island of yellow if you're choosing Salem up to the left there. It will not be connected to the existing yellow. Yeah, I'll show you on them. You can pose that to everyone else.
What's that, is there more room at Salem? I mean, you said there, I mean, I'm not sure I've given the opportunity to really get that in.
I mean, Salem does have available seats.
So my concern is while Salem has additional seats, the whole issue for a lot of our calendar reassignment stuff is we've got buses that are going every which way. And that non-contiguousness would be a little bit problematic. So if we're going to make that shift, right, the buses to Austin Ridge are already coming right there. To add calendar application to that, you could probably even take a normal Austin Ridge bus route and just tap it into that neighborhood if that's what we're going to do. So I'm not sure that Salem makes a lot of sense. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I don't think Salem makes a lot of sense.
So that's my recommendation, is to
You also say that right now in the entire blue area.
45 students.
45 students, the entire blue area.
Yeah.
And is the chunk that we were talking about that includes the inlets in the other area that's 25 out of.
That's correct.
definitely not talking about the whole area. No, about all?
Well, if it's 45 students, I think it's after, right? Spread over 3 grades.
Allowing them to go as a cohort.
Yeah, because it's something.
So it's the calendar option, it's the calendar application for that area.
That is correct.
Okay, I would recommend.
Ms. Cash, your mic isn't on.
I'm
So she's got to be able to capture all these recommendations.
I'm sorry. I thought she could read lips. Okay, I feel like I would like to recommend that area have the calendar option to Austin Ridge, the 45 students, the
In the blue.
catchment area.
Okay. Two, three, four. Good? Okay. Okay. All right, so moving along. Yeah, back to the other presentation, slide 17. So, yeah. So the next several slides, we're going to go over grandfathering rules. The first slide, slide 17, elementary school students. We propose no changes to the elementary school students with grades 5 and their siblings for 1 year only, with no transportation. We will talk about calendar application, which will be separate from these specific rules just for elementary school students, okay? Did you have any questions about the elementary school students' grandfathering rules?
Is there any distinction between existing school to new school or existing school to existing school?
Not at the elementary level.
Okay.
The only time we're making a distinction is when it's a calendar application school.
And I think also just as a point of reference, the grandfathering process is being moved earlier to provide.
That is correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Earlier notification to families.
Yep. And I believe we have it scheduled, assuming the vote is still November 20th, we'll have it open, I believe it's November 28th through like December 6th or something like that. I'll get you the exact dates. Like I said, we'll contact every family directly, as well as put it out through the schools, through the website, and through with the help of communications. We'll get that.
And by
information
contact,
out.
you mean that was one of the questions, the recommendations for our middle schoolers, you mean?
Email. We're
Email,
trying to
okay.
email, yeah. And I'm sure we can use the school messenger as well, the phone
Okay.
numbers.
Thanks.
Okay. So looking at slide 18, grandfathering for middle school students. This is just a recap of the changes we proposed from draft 3. So from an existing school to an existing school, students who are rising into grade 7 or 8, they can request a transfer or grandfather back to their original school. If it's an existing school to a new school, meaning the students who would be assigned to Alston Ridge Middle School, that would be grade 8 only with their siblings for 1 year only. Questions, concerns about that?
So I know we talked about this last time, but let's say I have an 8th grader at a middle school and I'm able to grandfather, but I also have a 7th grader at the middle school. So my 7th grader would stay for 1 year and then spend their 8th grade year. This is, I know I struggled with this last time and I talked myself in circles, but I'm still struggling with this because I know it's only 3 years. I know we need a full school to operate, but I just wanted to, if my colleagues are so inclined to open this back up for discussion regarding 7th graders and grandfathering to new schools, especially seeing we have calendar changes.
Ms. Cash?
So I would like to open that back up because I know we get into this sibling for 1 year, but to me, it's really hard to bring anybody into a middle school and move them again. So I know the parent has that choice when if they know the rule, they have the choice. When they bring that child in to not bring them at that point, they can stay where they are, or the new school. But I definitely have a sensitivity to the 7th grader being grandfathered. That's mine.
Can I clarify the question? Are you talking about grandfathering overall or the sibling issue?
Yes, both.
Okay.
So, I mean, in regards to the sibling issue, right, if I'm able to grandfather my 8th grader and my 7th grade sibling, or even my 6th grade sibling, I'm bringing them into the school for a year, or in regards to the 7th grader, they've been in for 2 years. So the difference between, with that 7th grader, that 7th grader would no longer be able to grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just a choice for families. Do they have to do 2 different schools for a year in middle school, or do they, move that 7th grader as an 8th grader? So I'm just trying to make sure that I've thought it all through, because like I said, last time I talked myself in circles, and I'm sure I can continue to do so. I just, I think it's a difficult decision, and it is a 3-year school for our middle schools.
Could I add one point of clarification? So on the grandfathering for the existing to existing, it says that siblings may grandfather with no limit on the number of years they can attend. That's the last line on that bullet. So for existing to existing, correct me if I'm wrong,
They don't have to leave after 1 year.
they don't have to leave after 1 year. They would be able to stay through the entire middle school
Right.
period.
We're talking existing to new.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's the one school that you're referring to then?
Alston Ridge Middle
Just
School.
one school,
Yep.
okay.
So
Thank you.
just so that staff understands, so what the proposal is that the rules for existing to new school change to be the same as existing to existing for grandfathering, correct?
Dr. Martin, then Mr. Fletcher.
So that is something we discussed, and I mean, I've been arguing very strong about grandfathering for calendar issues because I think that change is just really problematic if you go traditional to year-round and then have to go back to traditional for high school. But again, last time we talked about that a lot, and we have a responsibility to fill new schools. So I'd be a bit uncomfortable extending that for everybody. The sibling issue, I have a little bit more sympathy for because, again, if you grandfathered as a sibling, so, right, that rising 7th grader grandfathered, now they have only one more year. So I would be open to extending this sibling grandfathering, but I don't think we can justify full grandfathering for all rising 7th and rising 8th graders just because we have to fill a school. If we leave a school, if we open a school with one grade, we're not going to be able to fill a school effectively nor offer the appropriate level of programming.
So, okay. Mr. Fletcher.
Well, I don't have numbers available to me that for the Austin Bridge School we're talking about. I do have some numbers from the Reedy Creek assignment. And in that situation, there are 127 sixth graders who would be allowed to grandfather. Now, if the, I don't know what the cohort ultimately winds up being, most of them are going to be at Davis Drive, I think. Folks going to Austin Ridge Middle, they're currently are Davis Drive or West Cary, one, if they're not in the multi-track program.
Mills Park as well.
And Mills Park, excuse me, right, okay, so Davis and Mills Park. 127 is a significant number not to have in your next 6th grade or your next 7th grade. So the choosing to do siblings of existing students only as opposed to the entire group that has changed base schools is an option. I don't know what the real numbers would be for the schools we're talking about, but I don't think we'd be successful opening the new school if we're not moving sufficient students to staff it.
We did pose this, well, you did pose this to staff earlier, and when we had looked at it, I believe when we ran the numbers, it was anywhere between 23 to 25% we would anticipate Austin Ridge opening at Austin Ridge Middle School if we allowed all of the grandfathering.
Did you say open it at 25%?
Yes.
But do you want to recommend potentially the sibling issue? Because the sibling issue has got to be a much smaller fraction of that. Because it is tough for a family to decide, do I have one child at this school and one child at this school? So I get that. I think we could probably live with, but I just don't see that we can open the school with one grade.
No, and I think it's hard, as several of our speakers have said, you know, that middle school piece is tough. I don't know. It would, I mean, 25% is significant for a school to be opening at. I don't know what the sibling piece would bring, but I have a lot of sympathy. So I would like to pose that question of allowing siblings to grandfather. Yeah, just to see. But again, without knowing the number, it's difficult to know what the impact on our schools would be.
Ms. Cash.
I'm just trying to be clear. So you're saying it'd be a rising 8th grader that has any sibling, like a 7th and a 6th grader sibling, or just the rising 7th grader? Because
That's a good point.
Because, you know, if you have a rising 7th grader that one year, then they're the 8th grader, I understand that. But if you have a rising 6th grader, it's going to be a long time. then at that point, I think the parent should be able to make a decision. Do I want my rising sixth grader to go in or go to the new school? So I think it's when a seventh grader is attached to an eighth grader is where it gets to be problematic for a parent.
So, Ms. Cash, you're saying if the siblings rise in seventh grade, that they both finish at current school, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
That would be a better number. But if the eighth grader has a attached sixth grader, I think the parent's going to have to make a decision because that sibling won't get to stay an extra.
But what are you saying, Ms. Mahaffey?
I think I'm aligning with Ms. Cash's thoughts between 7th and 8th versus 8th and rising 6. And as noted, there are inequities to the grandfathering, and so that's a part of this reality as well, is some folks are able to drive their students and others just can't.
Agreed. Okay, so that's your proposal on the table. And at least thus far, I've heard Ms. Cash support any.
Could I see if I got a clarification? If
Sure.
you're looking at the second bullet there for the existing to new, and at the end it says siblings may also grandfather, but for 1 year only, and then we would add except that a seventh grade sibling may stay for seventh and eighth grade? Is that what we're saying? Okay, just wanted. Okay, thank you.
That's a clarification, right, Ms. Mahaffey, Ms. Cash?
Thank you.
Okay, so can I see a show of support?
Okay. Thank you. Okay, moving on to slide 19. So the high school grandfathering rules, we hadn't proposed any changes from the previous slide, so did you have any questions or concerns about that? No?
Well, I have a question about the Panther Creek. Doesn't relate to grandfathering, but I just thought of how are we going about the plans for the modular classrooms that are currently at Panther Creek and Green Hope? I just wanted to ask, not for an answer tonight, but maybe if the facilities committee could talk to us about, given the severe overcrowding at both of those schools for the last several years, if given the relief of green level, can we have a plan for what we're doing with those modular classrooms at those high schools?
Panther Creek will still have 2,200 kids on campus this coming year.
Built for 1,600, but we'll have 2,200.
So
yes.
it's a good topic. It's not going to be a quick
It's
solution.
a long-term, no, just a long-term
If a
plan.
municipality wanted to step up and say, we'd be happy for you to build a temporary school in our community, I think that would be a great reappropriation of that resource. Perhaps in elementary schools somewhere that we've heard folks talk about today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great conversation for our municipalities conversation.
And then moving on to the last grandfathering slide, slide 20. So in the last meeting that we had, there was a proposal for elementary and middle school students that are affected by the calendar application school changes, that they would be able to grandfather at all grades with no limit on the time that they can stay, as well as their siblings. Does that seem to be the way that you guys wish that staff present
As
it?
transfer students without
Yes,
transportation.
that is correct, yes, sorry. And they would make those requests in December, so we would contact them, or November, December, whenever we open the window.
Mr. Fletcher.
May I want to inject this because of a comment that was made earlier. The assumption here is that the domicile of the family doesn't change.
That is correct.
During the transfer period or the grandfathering period. If the domicile changes in any of these lessening of the immediacy of the assignment, if the domicile changes, the game's off.
That would be correct.
The grandfathering doesn't continue if your domicile changes.
That is correct.
Okay, all right.
I made that clear.
Because
Yes.
that is,
We need to be very clear about that, yes.
yeah.
You'll add some language then?
Sure.
So I have one minor question. I'm a little concerned about creating a new classification of student that it almost appears like grandfather transfer could become a different classification of student. And so my tendency would be that these would be transfer students rather than grandfather transfer, so we don't create yet another category. Because I think what we're suggesting is that all rights, if you will, for that category of student will be equivalent to a transfer student. Is that correct?
Yes. I believe what Mr. Fletcher was talking about, though, is if you change your domicile within this process, what happens is you're not there as an application student prior to that.
I'm in complete agreement with that.
Okay.
And I almost think that should also be, it sort of is, but it's not always understood, the condition for a regular transfer student as well.
Mm-hmm. Regular transfer students, if you change your address,
You change your
still remain at
domicile,
the
it
school.
changes. And so that's why I think it'd be wise to clarify that language for all transfers.
Okay.
But I guess all I'm suggesting is that if we create a category that says grandfather transfer, we've just given ourselves yet one more category of student. And that's why I want to make, I think it would be
that's
wise to
the
have
language
us
here.
this is just a language issue, not anything else, because we're talking about them being transfer students.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just turn them into Ts instead of GTs or whatever we're going to do.
So where it currently reads grandfathering continued on the top of that page, you would just take that off and call this transfer option, something that effect.
That's
A
what we're
different
talking
title,
about,
and
really,
then
isn't it?
and then the rest of it would be this, and you would remove language around grandfathering in this,
Right,
but same outcome.
We have given staff authority to grant transfers for a certain set of reasons. And my sense is what we're doing here is exactly that, granting staff the authority to grant the transfer for this reason. That's what I think we're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then moving on, slide 21, this just updates where we are in the process. So we are at, today's November 7th, correct? And so we had our public meeting today, and your final vote will be on November 20th. So what staff will do is we will input all of these new slides into a final draft 3 that's proposed by staff to the board. We can present it at the work session prior to the 20th, so you can see that final version with all of these updates. And then we can bring it to the board, to the podium during the board meeting.
Yeah. And I also noted that if folks needed to go back, now is the time to have that conversation. Ms. Cash.
So if we have, a lot of questions came up to me during the hearing, or the public hearing, and is this the time to start asking them?
That's what I just said. Yes.
That's what I thought you said, okay.
Thank you for clarifying.
Can I have one right now? I'll do one at a time.
I thought that's where you raised your hand for. Yes,
It was?
ma'am.
Okay, good. Second question. First question was clarification.
Thank you.
Okay. So East Cary year-round school. Now that we're changing, I have some sympathy for the people that have gone to the year-round program at East Cary and want to continue in a year-round program because it serves us well. And we give them the option of going to Austin Ridge.
No, Lufkin.
Or Lufkin. And that's a ways away. It's
approximate.
is there anything
They're all
close?
a ways away.
30-minute drive for a month.
So what are you laughing at, Don? Okay. There's nothing closer for year-round
There's either
options,
Lufkin or
middle
Salem.
school?
I
Okay, I have to reconcile this in my mind because it's kind of tough for me to do that.
Sorry, Melissa. Ms. Mahaffey.
Well, I would say, coming back, we talked about a potential deferment that didn't go. But for families coming out of Carpenter, their options are Green Hope and Weatherstone. But we are allowing current or families that have that are moving into Parkside from Carpenter or another school to stay there. So that does not really allow for calendar application seats. And I struggle with the, knowing that, I struggle with the as we talked about it, the non-option option, but also a need for proximate seats. And I'm wondering if we can come with a solution that feeds into the calendar application school of West Cary for those Carpenter families. I'm worried that, we're going to offer them an option they won't be able to for families that have, third, fourth, second graders not be able to go. So I'm looking at some of the utilization numbers, but it's pretty crowded. So.
Are you talking about the same East Cary issue that Roxy?
No, I'm on a different topic.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Do we need to go back? Okay.
Well, I was about to say,
I'll table
I was
my
with Jim.
thing
I was
until
totally
we're
trying to
done.
follow, and I was like, but we haven't.
Sorry, I thought we were done with that line of
Oh,
questioning.
no,
I will hold my-
we are not done.
Okay.
I could not figure out
ready.
where you were going.
No, I was.
Yeah, no, we're going to do one topic at a time.
I can, yes.
I don't have any solutions to that. I was trying to understand the fact that we have year-round people that have bought into the year-round program, which is an advantage for this school system, not having a closer option. But if we're going to change the calendar, I don't have a solution because there's nothing closer.
Ms. Kushner.
Well, I'm often asked about the year-round schools. Are we getting an advantage at East Cary? I thought we had some data that showed that we were having to supplement the program at East Cary in order to, so it was costing the system. And I think that's why many of us, I think all of us, have asked that we have a thorough analysis of the year-round program. Where are they? We discussed it last year as far as some of the schools in Holly Springs were not fully loaded. So if we can get that analysis of where are we getting the capacity bonus of year-round, for multi-track year-round, because I think that is the benefit we are able to get. I would love to have shorter breaks for students in some of our traditional schools, but we have the calendar legislation to consider. But for the multi-track year-round, for us to truly be able to justify the disruption to our assignment plan and our enrollment issues, are we getting the benefit from the multi-track year-round, and which schools are fully loaded, which ones are not? I think we really need to have a deep dive into that.
Dr. Martin.
Well, and to that point, for the record, based on things that we've heard in public comment, I don't think any of us look at the East Cary issue as the magic bullet the calendar is the magic bullet that's going to all of a sudden take care of all challenges at East Cary. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. We're not seeing this as any kind of a magic bullet. What we're seeing by looking at the data is that there's not sufficient demand for as many year-round calendar schools as we have, to Ms. Kushner's point. There are other pieces of work that need to be done, as we regularly talk about at East Cary and other schools. So I just want to make it clear that this is not, calendar is not some magic bullet kind of issue. It is looking at there is more supply of year-round schools in this area than there is demand, and that's why we have to make some adjustments.
Mr. Fletcher.
A couple of things. I'm not sure who'll be facilities chair at the next board. I currently am. I'll take these two topics, what to do with the modular units and the year-round dive in terms of the economic value plus pro and con to our facilities people, and that'll also have to deal with some financial people as well to look at that. And we'll figure out a process to bring that back. And if I need to hand it over to a new facilities chair, we can get the thinking started about how to answer those questions. In terms of East Cary, I'm an advocate for East Cary remaining a multi-track school. I'm a realist that understand that we don't have an extra $300,000 a year to fund the teachers necessary to provide the basic minimum program as we have been doing for most of the last 10 years. So why, and I don't think you'll challenge me on saying I'm an advocate for year-round. The most recent model that I've seen for supporting full enrollment in a multi-track school the size we build them, the high school, middle school, is to have 4 fully enrolled elementary schools who will each supply enough students so you have 500 entering 6th graders in that middle school. We haven't been anywhere near, I think we've been under 300 with each of the entering grades. So there's a structural challenge to having enough kids to fill East Cary. And that, I don't see a solution to that in the near term. And I don't see, I've talked with a lot of the Adams parents and the East Cary parents. You need to market it. We're not marketing it. Nobody knows about it. It's silent, okay? I can agree with them on that. I'm hesitant to believe that we could convince 150 rising 6th graders to change calendar to augment the other ones that are already coming by base and other things. So as much as I don't want to be a supporter of making this transition in calendar, I have to be from a practical side. So, and Leslie, you know that.
No,
We've talked.
I'm out.
Okay,
I'm out.
all right.
Ms. Cash.
Okay, so I get that. You're right. It hasn't been successful. But what I think this board has to do is when we're looking at year-round schools and we say it's not utilizing or it's not functioning as we want it to, we have to, before we decide not to use it as a year-round, we need to decide if there's something else. I think we've tried to do that at East Cary. I'm not going to say we have not. But I'm hearing some other schools that I had questions about that are saying they've gone from 2 classes in a track down to 1, and then we're talking about taking more kids out. So that to me is a slow killing of a year-round program in that school. And I'm afraid we've done that. And that's where I don't want us to head down that.
Yeah. And just to clarify that is to try to get those schools where they should be according to the master plan. Those schools, Oak Grove specifically, was well over capacity, and we've incrementally been working it down. So the changes you see at the bring down like a track 2, like I think a parent had said, to 1 class, that's part of a plan to get them to doubled on 2 tracks and singled on 2 tracks.
So,
Because that's the capacity? Sorry, I'm trying to.
Because the school is meant to have, according to facilities, 2 double track and 2 single track.
right, and at the time when we had reasonable size K2, K3 classes, it would take 3 elementaries to fill a middle school. All right, and the elementaries were 2 double tracks and 2 single tracks in different arrangements, so that we would have an appropriate cohort coming into middle school to fill all 4 tracks. So I guess it's not part of this plan, so I'll hold that comment about a long-range plan to reduce the utilization of an over-enrolled multi-track school. I'll save that for another time.
Okay.
So before I'm trying to check for temperature checks. Okay. Yeah, as someone who's not really, I'm a traditional calendar fan. At the end of the day, the difficulty is having families change their calendars without a closed option. So I think what I hear you saying, Ms. Cash, is you've asked all the questions and we've exhausted this topic. Okay, all right.
Can I ask, related to Reedy Creek, we did hear concerns about under enrollment at Reedy Creek. So do we have a plan to boost the magnet enrollment at that school? Is that, what is the, because 66% enrollment does not sound effective either. So what are the plans for Reedy Creek?
So we'll have to consult with the magnet office, but yes, there is increased marketing that they're looking for, reaching out to families. We've done mini fairs in the areas that are our target areas.
But is that why we're decreasing it in the enrollment?
Say again?
Is that, I'm not sure of Ms. Kushner's question. My question is that the reason that we're going to decrease to 66 or
no.
roughly?
The only way to increase the enrollment at East Cary is to...
No, Reedy Creek.
No, I understand, but the only way to increase the enrollment at East Cary is to pull from Reedy Creek Middle School. And so when you look at the two schools, Reedy Creek Middle School and East Cary, Reedy Creek has the option to take magnet applications from everywhere else in the county. East Cary does not have that option to take applications only from the Adams Elementary base attendance area. So when you look at the two schools, how do you fill the schools? You've got one that can take applications elsewhere, one can only take a minimal from a proximate area. And so when you're looking at trying to keep the health of both schools there, East Cary needs the larger base and the more proximate base.
Because part of East Cary's current base is moving to Alston Ridge.
That is correct.
That's more proximate to where
Correct.
they are.
The Kitts Creek and Providence Place.
Right.
Well, they had...
That's our fundamental problem.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to get to.
The current base of East
Thank
Cary,
you.
as it is today, would only fill 54% of the school if everyone showed up, because of the tradition of it being an application school, and over the years not increasing the base because there were traditional calendar schools nearby. All of the elementary schools that surrounded other than Adams are all traditional calendar. So you would need to then change the year-round, you would need to change an elementary school to year-round, which, you know, we don't need them for capacity in that particular area.
Thank you.
Okay, so to clarify, so rather than increase East Cary's base because most of the elementaries are traditional, that's why we're making this kind of switch. Because again, because it's been small, the assumption built into here is that it would be harder to get people to apply, to go there as a base because it's traditionally been application.
Yes.
Right, okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the dynamic of why we wouldn't just increase East Cary's base and keep them as year-round.
Yes.
So, okay. Right, that's what I was clarifying. Yeah, that's, okay. All right, Ms. Cash.
So I just want to be really careful with Reedy Creek. I mean, you said, is this the third year of the magnet program? And we've worked really hard to make it healthy by having it a magnet.
Yeah.
So healthy it's capped. That's a good thing. So are we decreasing it too much? I know we're helping, I know it's going to be in East Cary. I know we're trying to balance two schools. I get that. And Glenn, I get what you're up against, definitely. So I'm trying to understand, are we...
I mean, the reality is if you don't increase the base of East Cary and you leave it as is, we run the risk of, and I don't know if I should even say it, but do we even need East Cary being open? I mean, that's a reality, and that's, do we need the school open? Because if you can't sufficiently fill it, then why are we operating the building? And so our responsibility is to fill the building, and we can fill it with proximate students. Unfortunately, it would be through a calendar application.
That the only way to fill it?
Extend the current base.
I mean, we could bust in Middle Park, but that doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that would be ridiculous. I mean, no, my point is, we've got crowded schools, we could do long-distance reassignments, but I don't think that's
I don't think, yeah.
a solution.
So we heard that current magnet students have the option to grandfather, but not all are able to because of transportation?
Current magnet students wouldn't be
Not
reassigned.
current base
Base.
students that are reassigned to East Cary.
Yes.
Would those base students be able to receive transportation if they apply through the magnet program? Are they able to get their seats back with
I'd
transportation?
have to look at the transportation area. It hasn't been set. It's generally parent provides, except for a small area of express busing.
Okay.
For the current magnet students?
Current area, yeah.
Okay.
So since we're reassigning the base, we would need to determine what type of busing that area would get. Because it now becomes an application area. And I believe the area surrounding it is all parent provide.
Mr. Sun. I guess I'm pretty, sounds like we've exhausted options. And I think for me, we clearly have two schools asking us to keep things the way that they are. And so for me, I think what I'm trying to have this conversation do, because this is the first time we've had two schools asking us to keep things where they are that are actually being impacted directly. And so I'm trying to figure out what have we really exhausted. And I hear you say we have all options, because this is a case where these two schools are directly being impacted. So it's hard for me to be like, yeah, let's just go ahead and do that when they're both asking to stay the same. And I hear you, and I know what our responsibility is. I'm just expressing my frustration.
Well, East Cary is losing a big chunk of its already small base to Alston Ridge.
Yeah, that's
So
what I'm
it's
saying.
not staying the
That's what I'm
same,
saying. I
sadly.
think-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were asked, well,
East Cary, they are year-round, and we're proposing to move them to the traditional calendar.
We talked about moving Davis into East Cary. That didn't work. I don't think we want to go back on that.
I'm just making a point that I don't have another option, to your point when you talked about them.
It's just very unfortunate.
Yes, it is.
Monique said it perfectly.
So as an option, and I raised this option. I don't know.
Clearly hesitantly.
Yeah, because when I raised it, I guess it might have been a year or so ago, it was shot down, but it was the idea of having multi-calendar or dual calendars at one school. And I think the reason I was told that doesn't really work was because that's not really an efficient use of space. But if we have enough space at a school at East Cary, and we're saying that you could actually close it down, then is there enough extra space to maybe for a year or 2 years run a dual calendar at a school or two? Is that a viable option? I mean, I don't know. I'm grasping for straws. So I'm asking because this really isn't my
I don't know.
bailiwick, but I'm just saying.
I could be wrong, but not just the operational efficiency. I think it was also had to do with making sure we didn't have to give additional funds to make sure that they had the minimum number of teachers to run the programs as well. So when we looked at it for Salem Middle School and elementary, I believe, it was trying to run like 3 tracks on year-round and 1 on traditional. And when we ran the cost analysis, it was much more expensive to do that. Not to mention you weren't utilizing a good portion of the building for most of the summer. And and you had the elementary sibling issue as well.
So the answer to Keith's question is, in
We've
addition.
looked into it, but
And it's not cost efficient.
it's not an option that staff would recommend.
I know it's not one you recommend, but I mean,
Yeah, we got that part.
I mean, it's the one that we
got
ought to
that part.
consider. I mean, I get that.
You do not take responsibility for this. We got that.
I'm trying to stay in my lane.
You are doing a good job. I appreciate
But I mean,
you.
because if the school is only half full or 3/4 full, I mean, that's not cost efficient either. So
That's correct.
I'm trying to. I mean, 6 in one, half dozen in the other. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we're acknowledging, Glenn, that we're grasping at straws
that's it.
because
I'm
this
grasping
one
for
is
straws.
difficult to.
Well,
Yeah.
East Cary could be an elementary school that houses a lot of kids. Everything is on grade. There's no second story. So if we're going to get out of the box and look at what future utilization of facility might be, we may be able to solve some class size issues with.
Ooh, then where does East Cary go to
repurposing
year
the
round?
campus. I have no idea.
Oh, I'm interested.
I would still like to see it be year round, but I'm practical and understand that if I'm committed to that and convince my fellow board members that that's the right solution, then we're reaching over here into the operational budget pocket, and we're saying we're going to have disproportionate allocation of resources to this school because we couldn't figure out how to solve it any other way. And
Trust me, I'm used to throwing an idea out that I don't have an answer to. I get it.
As tight as our budget is to fund quality teachers, I don't know that that's the right. I don't think that's the right decision.
I don't have any more straws. I was willing to explore that one, but Mr. Fletcher said he
What,
he
the
gave
dual
Monica
calendar
answer.
one?
Well, here's another out-of-the-box
Are you talking about-
idea. The Hilburn is a K-8. People seem to love K-8 schools. So it's another out-of-the-box.
It is. I know. I think we're going to get there.
With all due respect, Madam Chair, I think this kind of spitballing is not appropriate at this stage in the assignment process. I mean, I'm not saying I agree with everything. I think staff has worked very hard. I think we as a board have worked very hard. But if we spitball ideas right now, how do we notify families? We'd have to basically put the whole thing on hold. Then how do we open up a new school? So, I mean, we have to, like budgets, right? We start the budget the day after the budget's passed. Our school assignment process, we're not solving all the issues today. We can't with one plan, right? I mean, we used to pass like a 3-year plan, and for the last, 4 or 5 years, we've been doing annual plans. That increases our pain, but it has minimized the total reassignments because we've been looking at things year by year as we open schools and instead of trying to do everything in one kind of 3-year swath. That increases, pockets of annual pain, but we've actually had much less reassignment in the last several years than we did in the past. So a lot of these ideas I think we have to be talking about. Ms. Kushner talked about the year-round assignment issues. We've got to look at we've got to work with our municipalities. Part of the challenge with East Cary is transportation access. How do would there be a better way working with municipalities to improve the road access, transportation access to the place? I don't know, but I don't think we're going to find short-term solutions, and I don't think it's fair to the rest of the community to try to ram some crazy idea through tonight.
I don't actually agree with what you said, but we haven't come up with a viable option because I do think it's our job to process viable options for families. So I don't think we're off base to have this conversation about how to actually be creative to support our families. But I do defer to our board to make that decision. And I generally don't state my opinion, but I think it's difficult for me, each of us who are sympathizing with these families, because it is difficult to say that we're not going to discuss it. So generally as chair, I refrain from making a personal opinion, but personally, I think that's pretty difficult to not allow us to think through how to support families when we're clearly struggling with what to do.
I didn't hear Dr. Martin suggest that. I think it's.
If it says a spitball and it's a crazy idea, then what is it?
What I'm saying is last-minute changes. We've talked through every one of these issues extensively We've heard the families. We understand the families. These are real issues. This isn't the first time we've had any of these discussions. What I'm saying is I don't believe that it's fair to families who've been paying attention to get to this point, to tonight try to throw in something else, because then what are we going to do? How are we going to contact all the other families that are impacted? I mean, I respect that it's great to think outside the box. That's been our job for the last, 2 months as we've been working on this. So no, I'm not trying to be trivial. I'm not trying to disregard ideas. I'm saying I think we do have a job to respect the entire community, which means long-term hard work, which we've been doing for the last several weeks. And I don't think we can come at the last minute and say, hey, let's make this change, because then we haven't thought about the other unintended consequences. That's what I'm saying.
And I don't disagree that I am going to comment. I don't disagree that we should make a decision that's far-fetched, that impacts multiple families. But the whole point of brainstorming is that to get to the place where we are making a decision, we've changed this thing already 3 times today. Literally. We've already done that today.
And each one of those has unintended consequences.
Ms. Cash.
So I have one more question about something else, but I'm scared to go forward. But my questions, Davis Drive being reassigned to Alston Ridge does not have option to apply back to Davis Drive.
We did not designate that area as a calendar option to go back.
Okay.
And that was a decision that was deferred because last year we talked about sending that same group to East Cary and pulled back because we heard from families that they wanted a more proximate school for middle school. So understanding that that was something that we did defer until this year for that move. But
I appreciate your stellar memory. Ms. Cash, do you have a follow-up?
Well, okay, so we did this last year. So the Davis Drive traditional is being reassigned to Alston Ridge year-round. And we talked about this last year, that they wouldn't get to go back to Davis Drive on a year.
Because they have a base elementary school that's multi-track year-round, and we asked the staff last
To
year
align the
when this
calendar.
came out that we wanted K-8 alignment going forward, and so they gave us that.
And I agree with
in this
that.
plan.
I just didn't
and
know
we
we-
have chipped away at that over the course of the several months. Sorry.
No, I thought we were telling them to do that with reassignment. I didn't know we were saying they couldn't apply back to a school that they wanted to go to based on their own choice.
But didn't we just grandfather those students that are there? So I do feel, I mean, the parent that came and spoke and said she had 2 first graders, and she had had the expectation of having Davis Drive as her middle school. I can sympathize with, you come in, and she moved here a little over a year ago. So I can understand that. But again, it's a new parent coming, and we hear that newcomers should be more affected than established neighborhoods. But she's I'm not trying to pick on that one speaker, but as an example, that's a newcomer coming to an established neighborhood. Our issue is that we're having newcomers come every day, and some are choosing new neighborhoods, some are choosing established neighborhoods. Some are moving from established neighborhoods to new neighborhoods, but they've been in this area for a long time. So there's a lot of churn that we can't easily account for in our assignment plan. So while I sympathize with that speaker, we did ask the staff last year when we had the suggestion of because Davis Drive has been capped for a long time, or had been, that we asked that to be deferred because we knew Alston Ridge was opening up, and that would be a more proximate assignment for that neighborhood that had a multi-track base assignment of Carpenter Elementary. That's my recollection.
Is that what I was actually saying? I'm trying to remember. So if they're going, I know I wasn't saying to change I wasn't saying to change the assignment plan. I was saying that on their calendar application option back.
But I thought we'd grandfathered those students if they're there.
we
If they're
did. We
there
did.
now,
All
they'd be
these are grandfathered. But
grandfathered.
okay.
And that's why I'm sorry. I
moving.
moved to the first
Okay.
grader. I'm sorry. I moved to the
Okay.
first grader.
But the calendar application school for Alston Ridge Middle School, where they would be assigned as base students, is West Cary, not Davis Drive.
Okay.
The clarification, if we could, we heard a couple of speakers from Carpenter Village. I'm thinking through the existing plan. Carpenter Village has been assigned to East Cary previously.
Last year, it was recommended, and it did not pass.
Portion of Carpenter Village has been at East Cary.
Okay. I know there's the majority of it goes to Davis Drive Middle School.
Okay, because I was trying to put it together. If the people we heard from tonight had been base assigned to East Cary and calendar option to Davis, then their comments made more sense to me tonight than were they, because we've moved that group to Alston Ridge now.
I'd have to double check, but I believe all of Carpenter Village has a base of Carpenter Elementary and Davis Drive Middle School as a base, which is mismatched.
That's what it sounds
Okay,
like from the.
all right. Okay.
And that's what I heard most of the parents say, but Glenn can double check. Okay. So clearly, no resolve on East Cary, Reedy Creek. Any other comments?
So we had, I don't have a suggestion at this time for a particular school, but I'd like to be able to look at school capacity of traditional schools and seats that are available so that folks coming out of Mills Park Elementary, Cameron Pond, can have an elementary school where we can provide seats for those that need traditional calendar or that apply to traditional calendar. Because right now it's proposed that it would be Green Hope and Weatherstone, and we've heard that they don't have room for anyone outside of rising kindergartners. Again, I don't have that school at the time. I'm looking at numbers. There's not many nearby, but maybe student assignment, and I can talk more.
Were you capturing the question, Glenn?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
thought so.
what would be,
What would be a viable option?
what would be a viable option? I mean, I'd like to have an option for families that they can access.
Is there a viable option?
No, there's not. So there isn't a viable so then I go back to my original question that I asked in the other room about deferring.
Ms. Cash.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. Cameron Pond, if it comes out of Mills Park Elementary to Carpenter, we don't have any options for them to go to a traditional school.
Well, they currently would apply to Green Hope or Weatherstone.
No, guys, stop. Okay, I'm sorry. But can they get in? I mean, you have.
That all depends on how many applicants. Yeah, I mean, how many seats.
Okay, so unlikely.
I'd love to seat
That's all
everyone.
right.
Just,
Yeah, so would I. Absolutely. I don't see any takers, Ms. Mahaffey.
What?
Yes, she recommended deferring Cameron Pond. I know. That's why I'm making the point to see. She.
Still there.
You only have, yeah. All right. Okay. Any other questions? Recommendations? Okay. Final thoughts?
I would like to see how, and I heard, I don't think it was tonight, but another speaker talk about one of the unintended consequences is that the perception to families and communities is that we favor newer neighborhoods over older, more traditional neighborhoods. And I think it seems, obviously perception is reality, but it does seem that way sometimes as an unintended consequence. And so how we do that, because I would hate to see where then we move Cameron Pond out, we lift the cap, and then now families from newer communities get in and we push them out. And that, to me, is problematic. So I don't know how we address that other than looking at some way where priority is given to older or more established neighborhoods. And I don't.
Just to clarify, though, when you look at where the students are capped out of the Mills Park base attendance area, there's no set where they're all in new neighborhoods. They're all over. So
one strategy we used in the past was satellite nodes. We circled the dirt as soon as a developer got it approved, and we sent it to a school far away until we had a school that we could unravel the situation. That we've had several school communities suggest we start using that strategy again, which doesn't solve the immediate issue of the children in the school. Mm-hmm. It does postpone the hordes waiting at the gate to get in. And I'll go back to Scottish Hills was assigned to Apex High School when God made dirt, and they were going to be pushed out of Apex by new development out on Highway 64 and up Davis Drive, up Highway 55. And the decision was made to circle that property and to send it to a more distant elementary school. More distant, I guess, I'm not sure where we sent them. We probably sent them to Cary at that time because Cary had room. We may have sent some to Athens because Athens had room. So it's not a perfect solution. It is a Band-Aid on a problem to take the new subdivisions and to move them farther away in deference to the folks who've been here for some time.
5 years, it looks bad. It looks like Swiss cheese in 5 years.
And we're providing transportation for each of those neighborhoods that's a satellite node.
Mm-hmm. And that have endured wait lists and done everything else that we've asked them to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we took that undeveloped area out of the Mills Park Elementary base. Are there, in the elementary base, is there new construction? I know there's some condominiums going on, but other than that, is there new construction in the Mills Park Elementary base?
it's not been reported to us, no.
We'll go back to Keith. The municipality's got to keep us well informed. So currently, no.
But in the middle school base, there is.
That is correct.
Especially in the southern portion.
Yeah.
So is that something that we look at now, or do we wait till next year to look at dirt in the middle school?
There wasn't a map. I thought
He moved it for the elementary, not
just
the
the
middle.
elementary, not the middle. Oh, I would move it for the middle too.
Wait, the area in the south?
southern area.
No, we only moved a portion of the Mills Park Elementary that's uninhabited. The area that you're speaking of, the White Oak.
You didn't move it to your room?
No.
By you mean,
Well,
you
we
mean
did
we.
not, we did not put satellite nodes, and the next adjacent school assignment is White Oak, which is traditional. So the area that you're speaking of is the southern area down by Green Level High School, that area?
Yes.
Yeah, we have not proposed any moves in that area in this plan.
So that's inhabited.
That's
Yeah.
inhabited.
That's
Yes, I want to
Yes.
highlight the inhabited part.
Yes, it is.
That attends Mills Park Middle.
Yes.
That's in their base attendance area, yes, currently.
Why not move them?
I'm just going to recommend consistency back to Joe's point. If the majority of us are agreeing that we're not going to start moving impacted families today, then that's where we are. Just a reminder about our consistency.
I mean, moving dirt, I have no problem with moving families.
No, that was my suggestion, looking at dirt and moving dirt. Well, we would have to see where the dirt is, because there are communities and current students that would be impacted. So we
Not just dirt.
We don't want to create Swiss cheese, like Roxy was talking about. But we do, where there's dirt, that we can, contiguous, absolutely.
I don't know what you're saying, Ms. Mahaffey. Can you clarify?
I would have to look at a map and figure out what's dirt and what's inhabited, and I don't have that information.
I thought you were
I don't-
answering. You did.
No.
Sorry.
No.
So would it be appropriate as a to-do from this meeting, not to impede the current plan, but from this meeting to ask staff to look at dirt,
Yes.
options of reducing the opportunity to overcrowd the schools we're trying to deal with, and where that dirt might be assigned should it ever grow a house? That can be done apart from this plan, I believe. I don't think we violate any policy by having a secondary plan that's dealing with uninhabited land.
That goes back a little bit to what
So
Mr.
would that-
Sutton
would that
was
be-
talking
would
about
that be
with
a
the
reasonable thing to ask staff to
municipality.
do?
So to clarify, you're asking.
I feel very open to reasonable, but I'm looking to your board members.
So to clarify, you're asking us to look at the area in the Mills Park Middle School base that currently has no students living in the neighborhood,
Well,
and look
west
at
of-
possibly reassigning.
West of 55, south of,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. And looking at reassigning it, do we have a preference? Okay. Okay.
Yes. So I'm looking for, besides Ms. Mahaffey and Mr. Fletcher, and I think Mr. Sutton.
Okay with that.
Yes. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. So there is a caveat that it's not Swiss cheese.
I mean,
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and you'll have to come back and if there's no dirt without Swiss cheese, then you'll have to tell us that.
I will do my best.
Unless you found some students in the dirt.
So just so that
I'm actually quoting you all.
So as Mr. Fletcher said, this is not part of this plan. This is something that staff would come back to separate and independent from the plan. Okay, thank you.
But that still doesn't keep Cameron Pond at Mills Park Middle.
That didn't pass.
I don't.
Well, that was for the deferment, postponement, or whatever.
Hold it up twice.
Yep, we're. Okay.
Anything else?
Did you get your question answered, Mr. Sutton? Sorry.
Which, about
Your
that?
last question.
About the dual count? Which one are you talking about?
No, your last question, where were you asking? Sorry, you weren't in your mic, so I wasn't sure what you were asking.
Does that keep Cameron Pond
Oh,
at
sorry, I
Mills
didn't-
Park Middle? But I guess it doesn't.
No, it does not.
Multiple calendar.
Okay.
You're talking about the multiple calendar in one school?
No, his last question, I didn't hear his last question. It was, does that keep Cameron Pond at Mills Park Middle? If we reassign dirt.
Right.
That's what he was asking. And it sounds like it doesn't. Well, you'll come back and tell us. Okay. All right. So you'll let us know. All right.
The question about the multiple calendar at one school, though, that cost analysis, is that, I know you said there was some look at.
We did look at it. I need to go back and find it. You sent that email on 11/21/2017. I found the email where you sent it. I found the email that I sent it to Glenn, and I said, what does this look like? But I know that more than Glenn were involved in it, in the response, so I got to find the rest of it.
Okay.
So,
Does that
found it.
help that situation?
not now, no.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, that would
I
be
do
like
remember
a
it costing more.
It would be a 5-track school, essentially.
We don't have
We had
space for that. We
Right.
can't, there's not
Yeah.
space for that.
We looked at multiple options. That was one of them.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we ran it.
More than
We ran
that,
that
okay.
rabbit. I promise you, but I'll bring it back.
Ms. Cash.
This is just my eyes giving a question, but so we can still look at that because that goes to the East Cary piece. Is why you're asking that, but we're not going to change
I'm
it.
I'm asking, is that a potential option or solution for the East Cary piece?
Right.
Would that help?
That's
I don't know.
That's interesting. Me too.
I think what we determined was that it was not an option that would be efficient, and it would cost more money. And so we didn't have any more conversation about it after that. But if the gains of running all of those in one location, if the gains outweigh either the efficiency or the cost,
Right.
which would be the decision that the board would want to make.
I think that's what
Right.
you're asking.
Right.
Right.
We'll bring it.
Okay, so they'll bring that back to us. Thank you.
Well, and can I just ask on that? I mean, sadly, we've got the calendar law on top of us, right? Because if we were going to, I'm not even sure that we can completely open up a 4-track year-round school, a single-track year-round school today. We may be able to, but we've converted some multi-tracks down to single-track, but that starts getting into questions about the calendar law, right? We can't put anybody on the modified calendar, which would be ideal. So we've got a calendar law on top of everything else that we're going to have to deal with if we look at this option.
I
We
think
should
the
change
issue with the
calendar
option
law.
was that it did not gain you any capacity. So if it was an option for a school that was crowded, it did not gain capacity. You actually had an inefficiency in the capacity for either full traditional or full multi-track year-round. So,
But the key part of that is if it was a school that's crowded,
Right.
and we're talking about a school that's not crowded.
Correct.
So then, is that then
right.
a viable option to weigh and consider? That's all I'm asking. If we can just look at that.
Okay, so that's something you all will bring back to us. Okay. All right, any other final thoughts, questions, comments? Glenn, any clarification?
Yep, so staff will bring a final recommendation of all the slide deck, and then we will have additional slides for the items that you just brought up now. Okay, we'll keep that separate.
Jonathan, any clarification on your side? All right, Cole Bates?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Glenn. Yes.
Thank you, Glenn.
I'll now entertain a motion to approve our consent items.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve our consent items as listed.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please note by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll now entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Got the list? I move
Sorry.
that we go into closed session to consider confidential personnel information protected under GS 143-318.11, A1, A3, and A6, and 115C-319. To consult with the Board of Education attorney to preserve the attorney-client privileges provided in GS 143-318.11, A3. To consult with an attorney employed or retained by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the board due to current litigation, Wake County Board of Education versus Catherine J. Cohen, Wells Fargo Bank, case number 18ZCVO 08904, and Wake County Board of Education versus Life International, a North Carolina nonprofit corporation, case number 18CVS 11492. to consult with the Board of Education attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege as provided in GS 143-318.11A3, Shields versus Wake County Board of Education, Wake County Superior Court, 17 CVS 003089, and Karen Clark versus Wake County Board of Education, Wake County Superior Court, number 18 CVS 8002, and to consider confidential student information protected under GS 115C-402 and the Family Educational Privacy Rights Act, 20 U.S. Code 1232G.
Second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please know by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. We'll now go into closed session.